About freedom, the power hour of freedom here at Brother L Global. It is an amazing time. Um, you probably get you about 2 hours of sleep, maybe three. You got to freshen up and get right back to work because um, it's this bombshell story, bombs, and it's not about like we doing this for a story. We've been doing this since 2012 to furnish the information directly to our fellow citizens, our brothers and sisters, our neighbors, our loved ones. Um, we've been in a info wars before we even knew that it was an info war going on. I mean, we knew that we couldn't trust information coming out of particular public entities. That's for sure. But but to have a president, to have a CEO and not Doge but X, and seeing how they went and purged um, Twitter and released critical information relating to the collusion of the federal government and the censorship of not only Americans, which is a usurpation um, of their birthrights, their inherited rights protected by the Constitution, God given, unalienable, but it's also we have that same energy and now transitioned over into Doge. The head of Doge sits as the chairman of the board and basically is a specialist and expert, the best of the best at cutting the fat. In order to start any process of budgetary cuts and refining the budget, reforming the infrastructure through this reform uh, program, uh, we're uncovering a lot of fat, unnecessary fat, which it gives the indication of a money laundering pipeline. Excuse me, a money laundering pipeline. That's where we at. They've created this pipeline, and I'm going right back to it because this is important. This is this is probably the most single important development, you know, in the world really, because we've been funding the world terrorist operation, U.S. government undermining its own people and their and our inherited rights. It's a lot of, and it's a front for the CIA. I've been saying this stuff. We've been saying, "Hey, man, that's a CIA. That's what we call a CIA. That's a CIA. That's a CIA operation. That's an FBI operation." It's no coincidence. We got agents placed inside of the community, all the way down in the local community. So whether you're a big exec CEO or whether you're a common citizen uh, in rotation on the streets of the city of Pontiac or Detroit, you have agents, federal agents, been placed amongst you, and you got NGOs, which are really an extension of the state of agency, and their mission is to undermine the values of our Constitution, of our constitutional republic, of our way of life, and to create a destabilization climate. And they're doing it through the Department of Education. They're doing it through the USAID and other agencies and other contractors, other platforms, other programs. This thing is massive. It's massive, and every part of this development, every part of this journey, the American journey that brought us to this destination, is a critical part, a piece of the puzzle when it comes to prosecution. Justice is here. Our founder teaches us that, Prophet Noble Drew Ali teaches us that do not think that the arm of Allah is weakened because your punishment has been delayed. And that's the level of arrogancy that they've reached, to the point that really they don't have no choice but to come out and defend their behavior actions. Oh, this we're saving lives, we're doing this. No, no, no. Upon a review. And so when we put it under review, presidential review, executive review, uh, we come to find, what they call pork. Not only that, these entities, the, the bureaucratic state, the administrative state, these entities have pledged or declared some form of sovereignty. It's very interesting where we've got. They say, well, they wouldn't allow us to do this, do that. We had to send the U.S., the United States Marshals in there, clear these people out so we can get in there and get access to the American people's property. Why do we have to send law enforcement inside into the agencies that we own? What is that telling us? What is that signaling to the American people? That fraud and abuse is real, and it gets deeper. It gets deeper. They've identified that these people have been financing the attacks on President Trump, the lawfare against the American people. They've been going to and fro throughout the world, overthrowing governments, installing in governments. It gets deeper. It gets deeper through the NIH, through the grant process. They've been financing bioweapons that's killed millions of Americans and millions of people around the world. Billions. I think it says a billion five. Looking at the reports here, it gets deeper. I read another report that goes back to, uh, I believe, 2000, and they say it was either 2005, 2015, where all this money went into Afghanistan, 500 plus $1 million for this for programs, projects that don't even exist. Money has been appropriated to people that programs doesn't even exist. After these people were intelligently informed that that was a waste of our taxpayer dollars. Nope. It kicked out kickbacks. And so uh, we know how they do stuff. But the problem is when you sit as an elected official, there's another thing we uncovered. You got congressperson serving in uh, directorship or executive capacities for NGOs that's receiving congressional approved funding, and these organizations is receiving grants. All this is being uncovered. Government ways. We found the pipeline. They built a pipeline like the Keystone Pipeline. Uh, Remember the pipelines? Like all of a sudden, people in my neck of the woods have become familiarized with pipelines that's been installed domestically and internationally to transport, natural gas from point A to point B, to get this to Germany, to get this over here and get this over there. And so the same principles exist when you're talking about money laundering. And this thing is massive. And it should piss you off, because it should piss you off, concern you, and make you happy, because this is a part of the process of liberation. While they trying to say, the Elon Musk and these guys are oligarchies and the billionaire oligarchy class. No, start looking at the campaign finance. Well, you guys been taking millions upon millions of dollars from these folks, whether the individual making it look like, you know, individuals are donating in small incremental phases, but it's still a bunch of malarkey. That's a scheme, and the American people, because we done been through enough. A lot of us done been through different experiences that made us aware, that transitioned our cognitive functions into a higher functionality to where we can see things that normal people wouldn't see. You normally wouldn't see this. You wouldn't even have an awareness to be able to sense this type of thing. But if you've been in the streets, you've been in the penitentiary, survived these things, if you survive the democratic DNC policies of your local community, and you got some awareness. You've been educated, or if you've been a successful entrepreneur, if you've been not successful, if you have some experience. I'm 41 this year. You should have enough experiences to be able to identify, really right from wrong, things that doesn't seem right. Right? It should activate your the curiosity component of your thinking. Like, wait a minute, that doesn't that don't look right. That don't seem right. That don't smell right. That don't sound right. And so this is carefully thought out approach. I got my daughter in the background. Don't worry about it. But she should be asleep. It's 1 o'clock. She found a way to, what's that noise, and wake back up. But here's the point. Um, we as the American people and the world, as these developments continue to come out, we should be frightened. We should be concerned, but we should also be happy and show gratitude, because how long have we been suffering this level of abuse? We talking about major reparations. No wonder they talking about sovereign wealth funds, etc., because the people have to be compensated for the damages, irreparable damages, and not just here at home, but when we look at the impact and effect of a lot of these findings about our destructive behavior through these particular agencies around the world. We got a report on that, actually. Um, but let's start here. I'm truly amused at, and this is Representative Majorie Taylor Greene, and she sits in the House of Representatives in the current Congress. So she said, I'm truly amused at at all the Democrats absolutely losing their mind and defending USAID. We are 36. I said this too. Like, what do you expect us to do when they're talking about we are in a state of bankruptcy? We owe 36 trillion. We paying X amount of tax revenues to take care of some of the interest, which is, I think, is $1 trillion a year. So everything that we're contributing is going to interest. It's causing rapid inflation. It's causing all of these crisis conditions and a failure to respond, because it weakens the infrastructure of how we provide our governmental service and how we respond to being able to service the American people, whether it's disasters, whether it's the different issues that we always talk about that we need to improve, etc. And we kind of find out our entire all the way down to the local communities. Look at the city of Pontiac. Look at Detroit. Look, it's all the way down. And when you weaken, you know, vast amount of American communities collectively, you have a national decline. And so all of this stuff should be, by President Trump, should be classified via executive order as a national security crisis. We should be screaming state of emergency, and through that, as we know, that the president has extraordinary powers. But we got to bring corruption, political corruption, to an end. That's for sure. I know we got to work on, but we can't work on, you know, providing an increase in public safety for our local communities, and it's just not. When we say public safety, we're not talking about just the police. We're talking about a collaborative effort with programming, law enforcement services, quality law enforcement services, to be able to root out the criminal elements that exist and crime that exists within the community. And then you have other programs, real programs, programs with merit that have a track record on producing or achieving their objectives that they set. That actually set in place prevention programs, because the bottom line is when you don't have an education, a real one, you don't have the skills, these institutions are intentionally failing you. It supports the outcomes that the community suffer from. You know, whether it's Ben Harbor, Detroit, Pontiac, Saginaw, Flint, etc. How do we get to that point? And we look at are we doing a good job in governance, or are we doing a terrible job at addressing our issues and providing a greater service and greater security for the American people? No, we're continuously putting them in a harmful capacity, and they're suffering irreparable harm, cruel and unusual punishment without relief. So having an American president and Donald J. Trump, 47th president, the American people, we the people, can actually experience relief, administrative relief, executive relief. He has an obligation to provide and render to the American people relief from the executive branch. He has that authority. He has that power, should I say. That's his greatest power, is to make sure that every action that they take, the American people are beneficiaries of that action. And as long as he's doing that, his office is fully enforcing the constitutional law. I mean, the constitutional law of the land. That we can, they can hoop, scream, and holler, but the fact of the matter is they have not been compliant with the constitutional law. But they say constitution. He is violating our constitution. He is undermining the authority of the power of Congress. Congress is explicit in treasonous conduct and is currently under review. The institution of Congress is under review. Congress, we got to have a conversation. You guys, year after year, have been involved in legislation, producing legislation that's really un-American, unconstitutional, and you really been getting away with it because like you say, before Trump, you had Obama 8 years, Clinton's, the Uni Party, and then you had the stolen election, and then you got a compromised judiciary. I'm waiting on that information to come out on just how compromised our judicial branch has become. See, right now we still in an administrative state at the level they're talking about, but we have not got down to the judiciary, which is very important. We see that Congress has been exposed, so we got the congressional, right? We got the congressional branch or the legislative branch, and this great compromise. We could see that we got congresspersons that are sitting on these boards of these NGOs that's receiving grants funneled through the USAID. So now we got Congress under a microscope. And then we got Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, confessing to only receiving $77 billion out of the 200 billion. He said, I don't know where that money went. And that was a quote. He said, I don't know where it went. So we got the last executive regime that was occupying the executive branch, because none of the wars were active during the first 45th president, the duration of that administration before the 2020 election. So we was able to see Congress continuously send money, agree to send our money, our finance over to finance the war with Russia, knowing they wasn't going to win that, knowing it was a waste of money. We was better off in negotiating and making sure they never was a member of NATO. We didn't take another inch towards Russia borders. We respected and honored the Minsk agreement. You know, same thing that we're currently doing to Mexico. We currently doing to all the Colombia and all these people say, wait a minute, dog, we won't allow another immigrant, excuse my language, an illegal immigrant across our borders illegally to enter. All this stuff must stop. Tariffs, this, that, and that. And so, do that same peace through strength approach Russia has, you got to respect it. It was less money to say, okay, no NATO, no this, no that. Let me get out y'all way. Why are we in Eastern Europe in the first place? And you got the president of the United States saying, hey, why are we Europe should be putting up way more money than we put. They got an ocean. We got an ocean between us and Ukraine. They sitting right there on the land, and we spending more money than them. How? Why? Why? It's more important for Europe than it is for us. We got more important issues at our doorstep, and we can't do anything about tending to everybody else cares and issues if we can't take care of ourselves. And that's the issue. Having the ability to take care of yourself is priority. That's priority. America first. Who can argue with that? And especially after we've been supportive of our allies in nations in distress, we've been highly supportive. We've been the leading funder of all of this international humanitarian aid, support programs, development, etc. We've been a stark supporter to different functions, bodies, organizations, NGOs at the United Nations. So when do we say, hey, look, man, what y'all promoting on the negative side of what we're supposed to be involved in has been commissioned through really people that are foreign agents in the capacity of as U.S. elected officials. Americans have been tricked to hire foreign agents in operation within our governmental structures as elected officials, posing as an NGO, posing as a humanitarian outlet. Hey man, this is fraud in operation. And they've been using this money to mobilize attacks against the American people and our interests. And they've been declaring it. They've been out loud taking actions. I mean, who do you think that hurt the worst when they attacked the currency? And I know that we have to address the Federal Reserve and the wealth heist that was done in 1913 and put them under an audit. You know, that's another agency that's not number one a governmental agency. It's been disguised as one, but they claim sovereignty over us as well. You know, what would happen if Trump asked you to step down? I wouldn't. Well, wait a minute. What's going on? Come to find out, they got a sense of sovereignty. Congress allocated to them, but Congress didn't have that authority. The Constitution did not delegate that power to Congress to hand over our sovereignty to some foreign entity. And now we out here fighting wars and funding topples of government. That's all done through the bankers, the banking cartel. So we going, I don't want to jump ahead of President Trump, but we're going step by step, step by step, step by step. And you're going to see it. You're going to see it. You're going to see just because we already at, let me make sure I put that, check that off. We already at treasury payments. Story came out from Doge activity on the audit. We want to see the payment system. These guys retired, left with the keys, wouldn't give them access. Come to find out, they had no policy in place to conduct audits per request to make sure the request is valid, that the funds is being. So basically, what they're telling us, there was no checks and balances. Why would it be when it's the greatest wealth heist in global and in world history. One of them. Should say modern and contemporary time. This thing is global. I said this. It wasn't just because I've seen reports already exposing the financial crimes that's being committed by elected officials at the highest levels all over the world. This is an international operation of money laundering against the people. So the people get poorer, sicker, and die, and taxed through the process, while the so-called elected officials, the elites, the contractors, the unions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, they get very wealthy. They're sustaining their empire. They're sustaining their sustainability of their wealth that depends on our lack of education. Because if you're aware that you don't conduct that same counterproductive practice. You don't bring that to you bankrupt that whole thought process, and in doing so you bankrupt the whole physical process. Like, I'm not contributing, investing to my own demise. Let's make it make sense. There's a difference when I'm ignorant of the facts, but when I'm aware and I'm knowledgeable and I apprehend the facts, I, everything instantly changes. My reality changes. I'm not doing that anymore. And so with the U.S., I think it's a brilliant move for President Trump to appoint Rubio as acting director, because Rubio has a lot of experience from Congress, generated from Congress, at dealing with this entity. Congress, the one that produced the legislation that adopted the entity into law, right? And so, what a way to take a person from out of that capacity, put him as the help me out, y'all. What is it called? The head of the State Department, Secretary of State, and then placing him as appointing him to the acting director of the U.S. Agency for Internal Development, an international operation. Well, wait a minute. So that's effectively gave Marco Rubio more money and power, administrative authority, and only empowers the State Department even more by bringing that under complete control of the State Department. You see how that works? Take the secretary, place him over here. Now he's in complete control, and then he appoint a deputy director for that can be there 24 hours. They can sit there and work that post, and then they have full control of the decision making of where the money is going, who is going to, why it's going to, and they can stop it, freeze it, restart it, reform it, reorganize it, reallocate it, reappropriate it. On top of that, they can see who all had their hands on the corruption, because all this stuff is basically what's going on is, and they know this stuff. These people are not incompetent. They know there was a paper trail generated. There was a report and a receipt generated with each of those transactions. And then people can go and get the applications. They can go and look at the organization, go and find out who the leaders are of that organization. Oh, this is a congressman. Oh, this is a congresswoman. Oh, this is conflict of interest. What is this? What is this, America? We always wonder why the same group of people will continue to get the grants every year. I've been a part of these, thousands of meetings with this group, that group, this group, and they ciphering and stealing all of our ideas, taking them, put some bullcrap paperwork together, right? And get $5 million, 500,000, $3 million. I didn't see $25 million, $30 million, $50 million. I'm like, huh? But we sit here doing all the work and never got one dime. We had to pay to open up to run youth centers in our city, in my former city of Pontiac, right? We didn't have any youth center. The whole city was bankrupt. The school district was bankrupt. So what does that mean? That means that they thought it was smart to remove the youth services, youth enrichment activity, youth program, youth centers, music, arts and crafts, etc. That has everything to do with the essential building blocks of the cognitive development of our youth. So they attacked the babies. That was their idea. Instead of checking their pocketbooks and doing a forensic audit, and said, look, you can't live the same way, bro. You can't do this and do that. The children come first. The universal principle under international law. The children come first. Their safety, well-being, their development, they come first. Not in the city of Pontiac, not down here, city of Pontiac, Michigan, capital, so-called capital of Oakland County. So we had to put our money up and create youth center, find a location, drive in the children, create, develop the programming, whether it was STEM, agriculture, whether it was the sports and recreation, whether it was archery, STEAM, whether it was an introduction to marketing, entrepreneurship, investorship, wealthship, um, credit, finance, banking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Traveling, civics, Brother L Youth and Government Day, started that, found that, opened up the first school bank, secured over $200 million to bring the school district out of a bankruptcy, secured an additional $10 million to so the city of Pontiac can actually provide a public service with respect to youth centers, et cetera, like that. Held the former mayors accountable who are now being all federally investigated under the Trump administration for misappropriations, bribery, and I'm gonna just say it, money laundering. It's what we were saying the whole time. I went in front of the school district before, after we secured the $200+ million that derived that actually I have it. I think I got it right here. I do. Let's bring this into the what they say. Can I enter this into evidence? Can I enter this into the record? So this was back during, as you can see, this was during the Trump administration. It was making America great again. And so you can see this here. It says support PSD millage vote yes Tuesday, March 8th. Community Service Award presented to Prince Ravanna Malzil for your dedication to the We Care movement, April 2nd, 2016, Pontiac, Michigan. So this is just a token, which is really just a receipt of $200 million being delivered to the district. Now, what that means is how many people, how many contractors were employed from those funds, because 50 million of that was focused towards the redevelopment of the infrastructure. So, and then that means that we preserve the educational dollars. So instead of taking from the funds allocated for the classroom to do the infrastructure projects, we went and pushed the sinking millage fund in addition to the homestead millage and a couple other millages, which secured plus $200 million. So just think about it. All those teachers, substitute teachers, really, and a lot of the veterans that's been there, they all was able to keep their jobs and retire. The administration, the principals, etc., it was all able to get paid. The unions, the union leaders, they was all able to collect. The contractors that was on the roof, was on the plumbing, and it's funny because the same lead construction, as they call it up in city plan, that was supportive financially of our movement, it didn't dawn on me when he received the contracts after we secured the money. He received, that was his interest. So his interest was financing, being a financier of the We Care movement, which is really was designed, now that I think about it, to secure the funds for these people to come right in and cipher the money and act as a pass through. Well, he had a secured interest. And so before I can really see all of these different moving parts, because I have children, I had children in the district, and our children was subject to 90-degree weather, falling ceilings, 50-year-old buildings, out of date. The whole thing was a scam. It was designed to to look like a school for people who really don't know what learning centers look like in the 21st century. The institutions, the school buildings that they had set up was the same identical to the county jail and to the prison facilities, and that's why we was so aggressive on addressing to the not only addressing eliminating the school to pipeline the school to prison pipeline, because in reality they were making the private investor stakeholders of the penitentiaries, right, and its contractors, they were making them people trillions, billions, and millions in profit. And so Pontiac, cities like Pontiac is an example city where it was experimental economically, and it was more profitable uh, uh, for them to finance a district and issue its agenda to the district to actually not develop what they're supposed to develop: productive citizens. They're supposed to aid and assist in that reality. They're supposed to produce a viable, skillful workforce, right? So if some big entities want to move into town and set up their headquarters here, they can pool, they can fish within the local citizenry for the best, brightest, and most talented people in the world. They don't have to import 99% of their workforce, because that means they're exporting 99% of the generated revenues, leaving a major void area in the city, leaving the city to deal with. And so when you look at, well, how do you get here? How did you? So we had to put the district under review. We had to say, wait a minute. So where's the money going to? So we went to the school board meetings. We demand to know. We wrote FOIAs out. We didn't know this information. We held them accountable. So we're no stranger to uh, the political corruption that exists locally. Whether you're talking elections, you're talking finance, you're talking about constitutional crises. A constitutional crisis been existed in the local communities. They don't even recognize your constitutional secure rights, your protected rights under the Constitution in the local community, especially in a democratically ran city, even with a Republican sheriff or a Republican county. Doesn't matter. In fact, it's even worse because what you have is a uniparty, a coalition of rhinos and progressive left all attacking the local folks. This is how you become subject, how our citizens become subject to police brutality, because you got renegade cops with faulty training that has got arrogant in their corruptive inappropriate conduct under the law. And we don't talk enough about that. Yes, do we love our law enforcement? Of course. Do we need increased safety? We shouldn't. That's the reality. What creates the criminal environment? Poverty. Like what creates an impoverished environment? Lack of education. So what? Why are we sending money to the Department of Education to send money down to the local communities that's producing a donut? Zero, nothing, nada. And we've been saying this before President Trump got up there. We challenged them people. I said, wait a minute. The damn athletic director, Lee Montgomery, former athletic director and principal at the City of Pontiac School District, how was he able to make millions of dollars, but nobody went to college to a Division One? The children got on uniforms that come 20 years old. The locker rooms. What the heck is going on here? They're not eating prior. They're not getting the right nutritional diet for athletes after going to school from 6 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Now I got to go to practice at 4:30, 5 o'clock. I'm gonna stay there until 8 o'clock, and I'm gonna say, well, their parents are. We know the conditions of the community which we serve, and so we have nothing in place to ensure that the children make a smooth transition. Like it was absolutely terrible until we stepped in and made the necessary corrections. But we did this as citizens. We didn't do this as elected officials. We just did this as Americans, as an organized group. And so and it's hard. It's funny because it's like I think about the NGOs. I want to say nonprofit so bad, which it was more so a divine mission representing the Mormon Science Temple of America, but also representing our business, American Unity at the time. But it was funny because we never got a grant, so it's like it's hilarious. But we know now why we didn't get the grants, because we did not fall in alignment with the Democratic agenda, with the DNC's agenda. So no, we're not funding your organization. Your organization is empowering the American people. We're attacking the American people. We're looking to depopulate the American people. We're looking to take their sovereignty and control the American people. I'll give you an example. Why were they talking about mandating wearing a mask? That's an attack on your sovereignty. So everybody I got into an argument with, whether it was business owner, friends, and family, right? I, why was they had no idea, like, why is brother ill upset? Because you are effectively attacking my God-given rights. That's a violation under the constitutional law of the land. That's the supreme law of the land. My rights is the supreme law of the land, free of governmental intervention, free from infringement. But if you operating in the state, the so-called state of Michigan, they don't recognize your constitutional right. But you always hear the elected officials talking about, that's at, when I say you always hear elected officials talk about the Constitution, you actually don't at the local level. You have to go up, maybe county level, because the county pretty much is predominantly, well, I guess it's probably 50-50 now, Republicans, Democrats. But these people have, high level educations. They know their history. And they do know that this is a constitutional republic. So maybe at the county level, then you start to go to state level. And so you start to hear Constitution a lot more. Constitution, Constitution, Constitution. But on a local level, oh, you don't hear nothing about no Constitution. You hear about, unless it's coming from me and our team, our administration. Now you can hear Constitution. And then, like, a lot of people, kind of throw their beliefs up in the place of law. And the law deals with truth, facts, and etymology, right? It just is what it is with law. Real law, constitutional law, universal law. Real law is universal. It applies anywhere on the planet. Freedom, liberties, and justice applies anywhere on the planet. That's universal law. They're like, so we can't be dealing with no head of nation that's oppressing his people. What? Hey man, we got reports in that you ain't doing nothing that we into. So how can we be into financing your government, your administration, when your administration is killing its own people? No. We suppressing the rights of your people. Your people ain't voting. That's why excuse my language, Vladimir Zelensky, after Tucker Carlson aired his butt out on Pierce Morgan. Tucker Carlson is like, I don't, in other words, he's like, I'm an American. I don't care what you're talking about. You got to have elections. We had elections. We was in wartime, still had elections. Europe, wherever Pierce from, I don't know if it's London or Britain, but y'all had elections even in wartime. So we don't want to hear that crap about they're under martial law and you banning religious organizations. We don't ban religious organizations. We respect our law. Government shall respect no establishment of religion or prohibit the free exercise thereof. Religious freedoms is recognized no matter if you're Muslim, Christian, atheist, Buddhist, Confucius, Christian, Catholic, Baptist, etc. Jehovah's Witness. So on this emergency broadcast, because this is exactly what it is, emergency broadcast. This is bombshell stuff. Like, what are we talking about? This is bombshell stuff. This is Wake Up America. Grab your coffee, grab your, whatever your comfort is, grab it, sit down, and prepare yourself, because you are on a ride of a lifetime. You always knew it. You always sensed it. You couldn't lay a finger on it. You couldn't really figure out where the pain points were at. Don't worry about it. Donald Trump got it for you. And as they say, the brother's been preserved. It could have blew his head off twice. I mean, you talking about this is bigger than the Democrats. This is about the people you don't see, the international, the global elites that you don't see because they exist in the shadows. You know, I'll give you an example. When you start a business, most people think with ego, want to name the business after them, maybe like the Brother Ill Show, and want your face to be on the cards. We get that. But the real masterminds say, listen, we don't want anybody to know that we own any of that stuff. The owner could be working right next to you. Never know he or she is the owner. You just never know that. They just engage with you as an employee in the workforce. You don't know they're the owner. And that's a tactic. That's a strategy. And I love it because it helped me raise my consciousness to see like, you don't have to be front page, bro. Everybody don't got to know that you're the CEO, you're the business owner. This is you're on the face of the business cards. None of that is relevant. What's relevant is the quality of service, the quality of product, the availability of both, and your ability to market that beyond just the word of mouth, right? And nobody has to know it's you. You know, that's a mature approach towards this. And so that's what's happening right here. Flip side is that these people exist in the shadow. You see the front person, but you ain't gonna see the back person. Even if you get to the back person, it's somebody that's over that person, i.e., what they refer to as the shadow government, the deep state, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And like, what do you mean a deep state? Go check out where the money going to from the USAID and the NIHAID. Go look at where the money going to, and then go look at who organized that entity. Who is that entity working with another entity that's owned by? You see what I'm saying? That you find yourself at George Soros, you find yourself at these elites, and this and that and this and that. But the crazy part, the brilliant part. I'm okay. Anytime I want to call you something negative, I usually use the term, and because we want to stay positive, right? So I use the term brilliant. So don't take it like I'm literally saying it brilliant. I'm saying this is criminal. So the brilliant part is to not use all their money when we got access to U.S. tax dollars. What the hell we gonna use our money for to take down the U.S., to take down President Trump, to silence and censor the American people, to usurp the sovereignty of the American people? What the hell I need to use my money for? And shit, we got access to their money. Call up USAID. Go apply for this grant. It's nothing to go get a 501c3. It's nothing to go. And then especially when you have no auditors, no wonder the inspector generals then got fired. Y'all didn't expect anything. Nobody, none of the watchdogs inside of the government seeing what happened. We waited till after it happened and delivered their report. You didn't blow the whistle. Why did y'all allow them to get out of there? And I get it. They was in power. How do you even get in there? But we set in place. They talked about the inspector generals being fired. Trump does not have the authority. Wait, stop. Y'all produced a report afterwards. Why y'all didn't come to Congress with the report while the crime was in action? You should have been blowing the whistle with the rest of the whistleblowers saying, Senate, House of Reps, this is crimes against humanity. Here's our report. No, it was a delayed truth operation. We're gonna give you the truth, but we can't tell them right now. Let's get all the money we can get. Go pay for the lawyers right now. Biden gonna send us a pardon. Make it a preemptive, just in case they don't find it. But if they do find it, put us a play in motion. Because what Fauci did was an international crime, crimes against humanity, constitutional violation. This guy is Terrible. And guess who's been, he's been responsible at sending grants out to develop a bioengineered weapon, knowing the conflict, the consequences, and it's not incompetence. He said, "I represent science. Science is based on math, facts, and it can be reproduced." Whoa, wait a minute, bro. You said you represent science, so that's a confession to me. To me, that's a confession. That means that I'm doing what I'm doing intelligently. So that means he don't have a wiggle room to say, "Well, I didn't know." No, no, no. Wait. You represent science. You didn't conduct the science on every part of every part before you went on ahead and pushed and pedaled this out. You didn't start with a thesis, run an experiment, and get the answer to that thesis prior to. Wait a minute. Why was Obama talking about 5 years from now we're gonna be dealing with pandemics? We got to be ready to go. This was a plan, and you got to be living on Mars right now to not see the coordination in that scandemic that led us to where we at right now. All because Trump made the call to Zelensky and said, "What's up with that Biden corruption?" Son's making a fortune in the energy sector. He has nothing. He has no prior knowledge, no prior skill, nothing to do with energy. This seems to be influence peddling. Human trafficking is going on. It's a human trafficking operation. What's going on? And on top of that, when Russia uh, initiated its what is called, what everybody in the world, well, most people in the world is calling an invasion. But what Russia called it was a special, I'm gonna call it a SMO, a special military operation. Welcome to the classroom, y'all. Brother L classroom, the ADAP chamber, actually. So they ran an SMO, Russia, the Russia SMO. Now, what is that? Special military operation. Why wasn't it called or declared a war by Russia? We're declaring war on Ukraine and the Western and NATO. No, they didn't say they didn't declare war. They said the Russian president said we're operating, we're executing or enacting or initiating a special military operation into the Ukraine, and with the intent on denazifying the place. I always challenge my brother, like, what does that mean, denazify? You gonna kill some people? Well, you know, because we talk about, because they try to push the stuff about uh, uh Bibi not you, which I'm not a supporter of anything they're doing, but I like to challenge them and say, well, the Russian president has a warrant out. He said he's going to denazify the place, demilitarize it, dearm it, right? He said it should be a neutral place. And I'm not saying I'm not against that either. I'm just saying, you got to look at, it's no good and evil. You have to actually look at why people are doing stuff and why they're taking certain actions and understand the world could be a very dangerous place. And you have to be strong minded here and open minded to hearing everybody's realities out. Now we come to find out, and I got a report on this, so you don't think it's me just hooping out the mouth. No, they was using USAID to overthrow governments to render in regime changes. So if you wonder why, you're like, well, I think about the Russian president, say, well, wait a minute. If I see that, if I see you doing something like that, of course we got a special military operation conducted. But here's my point of bringing all of that stuff up. What was the point of me saying Russia executed SMO from the executive order from the Russian president? What were the findings? Let's talk about it. What was the finding? What did Russia find? U.S. bioweapons labs. What did the media do? That's control. They lied and said, no, they're talking crazy. What happened in the congressional hearing with Victoria Nuland? She confessed. Yeah, we got labs over there. So wait a minute. Y'all got bioweapons labs on Russia borders? Now we come to find out We had labs in China funded by us through NGOs from the NIH through the USAID, Fauci and his cronies, and you see all these collusions. It's a RICO case. No wonder RFK is on their butt because he know. They all know. Whether it's RFK, whether it's Cash Patel, whether it's President Trump, whether it's Elon Musk, they all know. Think about it. Why did Elon Musk buy Twitter? What was the first thing he did? Release the Twitter files. Got rid of the name Twitter to get rid of the lawsuits, and then did a rebrand into X, free speech platform. Cut 80% of the staff because you didn't even need the staff. Why did he say he didn't need all them people? Because they wasn't censoring Americans. What the hell we needed this? So what they essentially had was the CIA, FBI running Twitter. They had a police force. And then they got blasted by the courts. They continue to get blasted by the courts. They got exposed about abusing the Pfizer courts. They got exposed about producing fake evidence, the Russia hoax, the fake dossier, the Steele dossier, etc. They got caught with email communications, knowingly lied to the American people on sensitive intelligence, telling them that the laptop was Russian disinformation. This is why they were stripped of their titles, their security clearance, their security, all of that stuff was stripped. Why? You all were explicit in treasonous acts to overthrow a sitting president. And you interfered with the election, causing a national security crisis within the United States. And you got to be dealt with according to the law. As soon as Pam Bodie get in, you will see it go from an investigative form disguised as an audit, but it's really an investigation that they already know the answer to. Understand this. There's no way at this level when I ask a question, I don't know the answer to it. So what's the point of asking the question? I know you're thinking that. Well, so you can know it. So now the fake news media outlets that are really psyop operations can't lie to you. They can't enter your brain because you start to cut that, you start to change the channel, meaning you have just entered into a new frequency and you left that other stuff behind you. Because time and time again, they have been wrong to the tunes of millions of dollars because they're being sued for those wrongs. Because those wrongs damage people, processes, confidence, trust, brands. No, you got to be sued for that. You got to be sued for that. I need just compensation. And President Trump been tearing their butts up. Mark Zuckerberg, he released the FBI files, right? The Facebook files. Got a new haircut. Started working out. Some UFC working out. Got trying to tone a little muscle. Tried to get into his patriot capacity to convince the American people and President Trump that he wasn't an agent. But in fact, he wasn't a willing agent. But in fact, you were a willing agent. You was the eyes and ears of the Biden administration. You were censoring critical information about COVID, about elections, about Hunter Biden, about the Biden crime family, about everything. You banned President Trump. By doing that, you effectively banned the American people. Now you got to be held accountable. You should be stripped of your security clearance or your protection under the 230 under Section 230. You should be stripped of that protection. And I remember it was a fierce fight to strip them of that protection. But Congress continued to fail the American people. Do we respect Congress? We should be able to if their actions were respectable. But we can't respect any person, any body, any organization if you have taken willful actions to deprive, to deny, to cause harm, to undermine the rights of the rights and interests of the American people. If we are $36 trillion in debt and government overspending on foreign countries and foreign causes is not at all what people are about. But I truly hope Democrats make it, excuse me, make it their hill to die on. Democrats keep fighting to send Americans hard-earned tax dollars overseas. I really want to win the midterm. So she's saying everything they're doing in their reaction will cost them the midterm. They're going to lose even more seats. Why? Because the American people see right through the garbage. And it won't be just Democrats. It's going to be some of those Republican senators and Republican reps because we could see that they're double agents. They're really a part of the Uni Party. They're throwing the stone and they're hiding their hand. They the mystic people, the mystic people, the mystic men and women. You hear them in folk tales, you never see them. No, we can see you. We can see we can see you. We see your voting history. We got your voting record. Why did you vote like this in 2024 and 2023? Why do you consistently vote in alignment with democratic agendas that has done the country and the world no good, but made individuals and companies, corporations very wealthy to the tune of where they're arrogant now. They like, you can't tell us what to do, really. And I remember Trump saying that, hey man, listen, Sleepy Joe is not running the government. Then who is? Mike Johnson confessed that he said that the president didn't even know he signed particular executive order. He didn't know what the hell was going on. He's probably relieved he the heck out of office. So we know who's been running the government, not the American people, not the people the American people elected. That should frighten us. We're a nuclear power. We can't be going around escalating wars, being a nuclear power. We're supposed to be escalating peace. We're supposed to end conflicts, end wars, end famine, end these issues that the humanity suffer from. But we're a complete hypocrite when we won't even take care of our own people, but we out sending money in aid, humanitarian aid, toppling governments, sending condoms, $50 million, $100 million worth of condoms, financed by the United States. What are we talking about here? I stand by what we always have said. It should be no poverty in the city of Pontiac. But I watch the DNC and its operators profit to the tunes of millions of dollars while the children graduation rates decline, while enrollment decline, while test scores continue to decline, while the buildings decline, the morale decline, the integrity and the dignity of our community is not intact. It's gone. It's eradicated. It's eliminated. They now are in a mentality where they think that there's no hope, there's no solution. That if because the president is, somebody told them that the president was a white racist man. So to block their critical thinking capacity, they don't want people to start thinking critically without the DNC intervention, without that fake marketing and promotion and propagation of falsehood. It's the white man. He's white-ish. And what they're really saying is that, hey man, don't listen to nothing about the Constitution. Forget about your American citizenship. Forget about your American sovereignty. Forget about the American dream. Forget about the American wealth. Forget about the American economy. Forget that you're an American, that you're not black, Negro, color, pink, blue, green, fish, donkey, pig. You ain't none of that. You're an American. What's your nationality? Oh, you Russian American? You Italian American? Well, hey, I'm Moorish American, descendants of Moroccans born in America. What about our birthright as Americans, secure under the free national constitution? I'm a national. You're a nat. So it's like that's not the algorithm in the local communities where it's a blackout. It's black, 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 the black suppression, the black oppression, the black justice, the black, the black. And I'm saying to myself, according to etymology, black means Paleolithic, pale, to bleach. What the hell are they talking about? It's an old English, High German word. In its original use, it means pale or to bleach in referencing the Paleolithic society. What are they calling me? Why are they saying I'm black? Black is not a nationality. It's a status that was referred to slaves. And I'm not a descendant of slaves. You can't be a descendant of slaves. Why? Why can't? That's a great question, America. I want to challenge Americans on this. Why can't you be a descendant of slaves? Why would I say something like that? Is it to piss people off? Is it to challenge their belief system? None of that. According to the Declaration of Independence, we hold this truth to be self-evident. All men, right? All men are what? Born what? Free. So how can you be born in slavery? How can you be a descendant of slavery? What are you talking about? Black. Black mean pale. Why they keep saying I'm going to be a strong black man? What do they mean by black power? Imagine translating that in English, right? In context. Look. So let's translate it. Black power, like pale power. That's what they're saying. Pale power. It's not a national identity. It's an adjective that means pale or to bleach. It was inflicted on the Moors or this particular group of people to conceal, suppress, oppress their national identity, to remove their national claim, secured under their inherited rights, protected by the Constitution to their vast estate. So their nationality was removed and hidden and suppressed and oppressed under the Racial Integrity Act and other legislative pieces introduced by Congress and enacted by Congress in violation of the constitutional law and treaty laws, etc. And its attachments. So the PSYOP, the propaganda, it's been activated for a long time and it's being used as a weapon. It's been weaponized against the American people. So while we looking across the water, and that's a very good trick that they always do. Yeah, Africa, one person, you need to go to Africa. I say, you referring to the one in the Eastern Hemisphere, and they never heard nobody, or they act like they never heard nobody respond like that. Well, I say, well, Africa's over here in the Western Hemisphere too. But what was the name of the land before it was referred to as America? What was the name of the land before it was referred to as North Africa, Northwest Africa? Before it was referred to as Al Marak, the Maghreb, the Akasa. Before it was referred to, yeah, we got to go back until it was referred to as a maxim, the first true and divine name of the land. So, what curriculum is being provided through the public institution, the schools, the school districts, what? What are they providing? Why are grown people saying that they're a box of crayons? But now when you leave the US borders and you enter into another reality, they're gonna say you're an American. The Americans here. You're American. American. You know, determine you're black, you're a color, you're American. They're Americans. Irregardless of your skin tone and the complexities, they're gonna say you're an American. They don't, he's black. He's American. So that's just something to ponder on about how long and how vicious and how wide this scandal, this money laundering scandal, propaganda operation, military operation on American soil. They got us everywhere looking across the world while we over here. So we won't look at the invasion that has been executed successfully. Going back to some years. They had time to set this stuff up. They had 8 years in office, another 8 years in office, and another 4 years. They got the uni party in operation. They've been taking, actually what they've been doing is taking turns. All right, y'all turn. And leaving us to think that we're in competition. I'm a Republican, you a Democrat. They're taking turns whooping our ass. That's the facts. They've been taking turns whooping our ass. And they got us divided. They got family members divided. All they push is division. When you look at the TV shows that's coming out of Hollywood, and you look at it, it's all anti-family material. It's all anti-unity. That's all they're promoting right now. They don't even want the American individual to be unified within themselves. They want them to think something's wrong with them. Man, why was I born a man? Huh? And you watching some TV show that's doubling down on that type of thought process, that's stimulating more of them kind of thoughts. That's an attack. That's an attack on a child. That's a crime. When do we get to that's moral crime and all everything that you could think of? But it's targeted towards our babies. Hey, okay, so you're like, oh brother, hell, no, ain't no well nothing. That's what we call a depopulation program, agenda, operation. And now we kind of find out USAID is essentially a purse for the CIA operations. But we funding depopulation program from the CIA. That's interesting. So President Trump is these President Trump, Elon, shouts out to Vivek. We know about Vivek's contribution. I want to kind of say that out loud because it's no stories on Vivek currently that I've seen. But let's go to some actual footage, right? Let's go to some footage. I think I didn't kind of gave my reaction first and put mine out there first. But look at this statement from Edward Martin Jr., a statement from the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. And this is the U.S. Attorney D.C. Our initial review of the evidence, it's a quote, presented to us indicates that certain individuals and or groups have committed acts that appear to violate the law in targeting Doge employees, said Edward R. Martin Jr., U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. We are in contact with FBI and other law enforcement partners to proceed rapidly. We also have our prosecutors preparing. What does that mean? What does that signal? What it signals is the enforcement of the law. The great and lawful day, our prophet told us way back in the 1920s. He said the great and lawful day was sure to come. He said, whenever love, truth, peace, and freedom is violated, justice then must take its course. He also said the law must live, and he also said it takes finances to uplift a nation. It takes finance to uplift a nation. And he also said what we see in today is referred to as embezzlement. of the faith, because all Federal Reserve notes is issued out in full faith and credit. So the actual charges, and we know fiat means faith. These are religious coupons that we've been using, issued from the Vatican through the Federal Reserve, etc. But this is also, like I said before, this is a violation of the full faith and the full faith and credit clause. That's embezzlement. That's what's been going on. And you a traitor, according to our prophet Noble Drew Ali. He said, if we commit this type of act within our religious government, then we are traitors to our own cause, and justice must catch you. So how do you think the Moorish Americans, the Moorish people of America, how do you think we are viewing this right now? This is a violation of law. You can't sing your way out of this one with us. No, 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 no. So the U.S. Attorney of District, let it be known that you got a right to protest, you got a right to that. But when you take steps beyond that, that stuff that we seen during Trump's first administration, where there wasn't no peaceful, it was burning and looting, tearing down stuff. You can try it if you want to. You will be okay. You will be held accountable in accordance with the law. Period. We're not playing that game anymore where we're going to allow people to break the law without any consequence. And then they make declarations too about it. Yeah, we're going to define the court order. Really. Not under this administration. You want the U.S. Marshals to be to see you, the FBI to be to see you under Cash Patel. The administration is alive. The law is alive, y'all. The law is alive. So the Doge is being spearheaded by a 20-year-old autist. Okay. Wow, I didn't know that. The young engineer reported forcing high-level government employees on calls to go over code they had written and justify their jobs. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Promising to pay taxes. Illegal. You bring them in. They sign a piece of paper promising to pay taxes. What they get is a social security number. So the employers can take out the taxes. Put a pin in that. Here's what they do. In cities like this, let's think of a chicken processor. They will bring in hundreds of illegals. They will spread them out across all of these plants and factories, giving them jobs. They're all using the same social security number. The IRS unconnected our names from the social security number. Now, when you look it up, it just pings to see if there's an employer. If there is, it says it's good. It validates it. Why do they do that? Because all of these factories are giving them social security numbers. The government turns its back on it. As soon as you have a social security number and you go over to motor voter, pass the driver's court test, right? You get a driver's license. The person, look, you got a social, you must be a citizen. That's how they pack the rolls. By the way, those guys don't pay taxes anyway. It's taken out by companies. Our government's been sitting on $1.7 trillion slush fund that one fund has still in it to this day. So if you want to know where the dark money comes from, by the way, that's what, $100 million in a month in interest. I could go on. I now understand this is why they tried to kill us. And it's not stuff I wanted to know. It's not stuff I wanted to know about my country. It's not stuff I believed. But we have a uniparty. We don't have multiple parties. Everybody's benefited from this at one time or another.
So what is he saying? Let's decipher that. He's saying one operation after another, and these operations are funded by the U.S. taxpayers. And this was all about keeping power. That's what it was about. Because keeping the power allows them to cover up their crimes and then to cover up to those crimes. So they're covering up the covering up. They're covering up the cover up from the crimes that's been committed going back maybe Obama administration, maybe before then, going all the way back into the Bushes. Because you got to think when they got to the Treasury had digitized all of their expenditures, all of the transactions dating back over 100 years. So with AI and this new technology and all these intelligent people, no, they can go back 100 years and see exactly, pinpoint exactly what the money being used for, exactly what the taxpayer, and they have an obligation to do that though. That's what's crazy. To see how the federal government is being used to suppress its own people and the peoples of the planet, man. Everybody mad at Trump, and I bet they is mad because now you don't have a politician in his 2016 election. You didn't have a career politician. You got an entrepreneur, mega millionaire businessman, has assumed the office of president and didn't take a check. He said, "Look, man, I don't want no money. You take that check and give it to the military. I don't want nothing from the American people. The American people has given me enough. The American people has given me their trust. I got money. So that means I ain't about to be in a situation where somebody set me up because I took $2 or I can take bribery. I don't need your money. That's the reason why he ran for office. It's because you people keep selling us out for that little money. And these people coming from humble backgrounds, and some people are coming from, wealth backgrounds, but they're greedy. And it ain't even about the money. It's about controlling people with some people. Some people want to be in a position to control other people. They got a fetish for that. The World Economic Forum, and they're represent, yeah, people that lost the right to their sovereignty. We got to make decisions for. No, you don't. See, that's the difference in America. Under the Article 1, Section 10, under the obligations of contract clause, the right to your right to consent, your right not to consent, which is doubled down and protected under the Fourth Amendment, right? No search and seizure. Yeah, I got to be in consent. You got a warrant? You don't got a warrant. I get out of my face unless I consent. I have a right to consent. I have a right not to consent, and that's protected. Article 1, Section 10, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Sixth Amendment, Seventh Amendment, Eighth Amendment. You supposed to be the cruel and unusual punishment when you deprive me of my right to consent or my right not to consent. That's why they ask you a question. Hey man, are we able to search? No. Can we come in? No. Because you're not here they're not acting in the capacity of public servants. They're acting in the capacity of tyrants. They're taking an authoritative, how you say it? I can never get that word out right. Authoritarianism, something around that. So they coming in like they the authority. No, you're not. You've been delegating limited power. We the people are the authority that ordain this constitution via our elected representative, who we agree via our vote to have them represent us in this constitutional framework. This is a representative government. We the people are the actual government. Congress are operating. Think about it. The House of Representatives. They represent the interests of the people. We vote. We give power, meaning we could take that same power away. So who's the authority? We're the authority that delegated power constitutionally via our elected representative. So how some agencies all of a sudden adopt this autonomous capacity as if they're sovereign above the American people. First of all, you're an entity, meaning that you are a fiction. You are operating in a fictitious capacity. So how can you have a sovereign authority over the flesh and blood people? You out of your mind. But that's the kind of society we have created. Where listen, it's two realities here. One is constitutional, one is court color of law. One is American citizenship, one is a corporate citizenship. And it's you're like, well, damn, is that legal under the 14th Amendment? The thing is, the 14th and 15th Amendment is not legitimate. Because look at the algorithm it created. You don't need the Fourth Amendment to talk about due process and equal protection of the law. It's already in the Fifth Amendment. The treaties agreement were already established. It was already recognized. You have mores in operation in Congress, in government, in every branch, in every part of every part. The history that we've been given is fake. That's the issue. So it's hard for people to get clarity around subject matters, especially on their capacities and heritage as it relates to the American history. It's like you can't find yourself because you was in chains. It's like, but that's not the whole story. That's not even the angle. They've been feeding you propaganda. Propaganda is a tool used to destabilize nations. It's been weaponized and authorized to use against the American people. So the news is not the news. That's why they're getting sued. It's not a free press. It's a controlled narrative. And they've been busted. And it's kind of crazy because they didn't care. They didn't care about being busted. You know, we got the White House. We got Nancy Pelosi. What's the Republican leader? Not Schumer. What's the other guy? The old guy who keeps having a mental breakdown on national TV. What's the other guy? He kind of stepped down, but he's still in there. I can't think of his name. I can't remember his name. Yeah, I can't remember his name. Why can't I remember his name? Not Schumer. What's the other guy name, man? Mitch McConnell. That's how we got these done. Yeah, Mitch. So okay, so let me go here. Easy decision for POTUS and for Congress. It's just another money laundering operation pipeline extracting billions of U.S. tax generated revenues to fund educational cartels or unions and their contractors ripping off America. RIP DOE. And this is in response to Trump preps order to dismantle basically the Department of Education as those probes data. Closing the agency will require congressional approval, so the new administration hopes to diminish it in the meantime. My thing is, once we identify Congress as compromised, their authority is out the window. We got to start getting into a little bit different angle here because, you know, depending on Congress to uphold the law, it's like telling my son, you know, leave that candy alone when we go into the store. He hear me, but he don't hear me. And he eventually continues to grab the candy until he gets what he wants. So moving right along, they should be worried because reform is here. Just in, former deputy, this is Colin Ruggs, former deputy FBI director Andrew McCabe, says the FBI is in utter disarray thanks to Trump. Says they're living in terror because their pensions, healthcare, retirement are at risk. Well, first of all, what about the American people that have been subject to the FBI abuses and acting under color of law, etc.? We've been living in fear. You got people talking about nuclear wars, America, we aiming at America, we're going to attack, you know, we living in fear. We had to suffer from that. We had to watch the FBI raid Mar-a-Lago, stage a fake document case, set up fake courts to make it appear to the American people that Trump was dissing Trump. Whoa, 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 whoa. And now we're talking about, you know, what they're going through. Why they ain't think about that before they attacked the president and simultaneously attacking the American people? And been doing it for years, lying to Congress, lying to the people, withholding information, not being transparent, attacking parents for fighting for their children, labeling them. Think about this. They labeled parents. They gave the parents who were pushing back against school boards domestic terrorists, and then Trump come in and he labeled the cartels domestic. It's like, I mean, terrorists. It's like our priorities was absolutely messed up under the Biden regime. But guess what? Biden was administration was never legitimate. And quite frankly, I'm offended to keep hearing even Trump say the Biden administration. The Biden, it should be so-called administration. That was a regime that occupied the White House illegitimately, unconstitutionally, and they were not, to this day, our beliefs, and not just beliefs, based on our findings and based on just tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of reports on election crimes. That the world is trying to force us to say election irregularities. No, that's election crimes, man. That's a national Trump, President Trump, hear me loudly and clearly. We should have already declared a national emergency with the elections. The first day in office, you should have been signing an executive order saying national security crisis elections. And use that extraordinary power to conduct the same thing you're doing right now, a massive review. Because we know how they did it. And American people suffered. We suffered from that. We had to deal with a pen. Oh my God. You know, and let's see what we got here. Just in, China to impose a 10% tariff on the United States oil. Okay, we'll see how that goes.
That they take the taxpayer money and they spend it as a global charity.
Let's get Marco Rubio.
You're now the head of USAID. The head of Doge, Elon Musk, called USAID a criminal organization and added that it is time for it to die. Do you agree with that?
They have basically evolved into an agency that believes that they're not even a U.S. government agency, that they are a global charity, that they take the taxpayer money and they spend it as a global charity, irrespective of whether it is in the national interest or not in the national interest. One of the most common complaints you will get if you go to embassies around the world from State Department officials and ambassadors and the like is USAID is not only not cooperative, they undermine the work that we're doing in that country. They are supporting programs that upset the host government for whom we're trying to work with on a broader scale and so forth. So they're completely unresponsive. They just don't consider that they work for the U.S. They just think they're a global entity and that their master is the globe and not the United States. And that's not what the statute says, and that's not sustainable.
Can it be reformed or does it need to die?
Well, that was always the goal, was to reform it. But now we have rank insubordination. Now we have basically an active effort where their basic attitude is we don't work for anyone. We work for ourselves. No agency of government can tell us what to do. So the president made me the acting administrator. I've delegated that power to someone who's there full time. And we're going to go through the same process at USAID as we're going through now at the State Department. I think there are some, this is not about getting rid of foreign aid. There are things that we do through USAID that we should continue to do that makes sense. And we'll have to decide, is that better through the State Department or is that better through something, a reformed USAID? That's the process we're working through. There are things that are happening at USAID that we should not be involved in funding or that we have a lot of questions about, but they're completely uncooperative. So we had no choice but to take dramatic steps to bring this thing under control.
Do you think that we'll
see? We have no choice to bring this thing under control. Of who though? The American people. Who won the populist vote? Trump. Trump. He pleaded his case to the American people for 4 years, and we said, you know what? Let's go, Trump. Let's go take care of this business then. We hear you. We heard you. We agree with you. So now we sent Trump in there, and Trump said, I got the mandate. I'm in possession of the mandate, the will of the American people. I won the populist vote. So Marco Rubio says, this entity is out of control. Even as when he was in the Senate or Congress as a whole, when he was in Congress, they did the same thing. They came in there puffing around. So you got to really think like Marco Rubio really put Trump on that and said, look, man, we got to go take, your problem is over here. Your problem, your pain point is over here with this USAID and entities like it. Why? You heard what he said. They have adopted the mentality because they've been going unchecked and said, we don't work for you. We work for ourselves. We work for putting on a world. What? Now, that's coming from your Secretary of State. How did the damn USAID got more power than his office? Man, bring that under direct control of the executive branch, period. It's a matter of national security at this point. And our intent was to reform it, right? To make it better, to improve it to where it serve at the will of the President of the American people, and is in alignment with the national U.S. policy, foreign policy agenda, period. I.e. the same thing I just said, just in a different way. And they they went to a collective effort or organized effort to push back, to resent, to give dissent. Wait a minute, these are employees of you're fired. And Mr. President Trump POTUS is famous for you're fired. But before we get to you're fired, your ass is out of here. Call the U.S. Marshal, shut it down. We finna dissolve this whole thing. You're done. And they called the congressperson that they've been paying off. Well, how dare, and they out there, we're gonna push and all that. No, you're not. You're gonna be arrested. And you see, I'm not making this stuff up. You all just seen the signaling from the U.S. Attorney of D.C. They said they prepping, they're preparing, they're prosecutors. They got a law, FBI, they contacted the FBI. It appears these people are violating the law. So you're going to be arrested. Just like they told Big Tish James, they're going to put your fat ass in jail. You try that shit. These crimes against humanity. Welcome to the early morning show. It's a little bit different here. It's a little bit aggressive today, or at this period. And so just want to put a disclaimer out there. Excuse my language, okay? It's not intentional. But the truth is driving my passion to speak my mind as it is. No political jargon, no cute talking, no complex talking. You heard what he said. These people have got, because they not talking now. They ain't hear you with the Obama no more. It's our stuff. We don't work for you. It's our shit. How dare you? Who you think you? I'm the goddamn right-hand man to the president. You got vice president. I'm the first nominee. I went up first and got 99 votes. He got 99% of the votes. Ain't nobody pushing back against Marco Rubio. He coming from right out of Congress, been there for a while, know everybody, participated in come on, man. How you gonna squeeze him? He know what's going on. That department should be ran through the State Department. They sending money around the world. That's my I go around the world. I'm the number one diplomat. How I ain't got that bag? How do you people got a independent foreign state, basically it's basically doing the same thing I'm supposed to be doing, but they got a bigger bag than me, and they ain't doing nothing that we doing. They going against our official policy on foreign relations, foreign policy, foreign international trade and exchange. Wait a minute, wait, whoa. How? Because it's an arm of the CIA. It's a purse for the CIA. Well, the CIA ain't supposed to have that type of, wait a minute, that ain't what the intentions of, what's going on here? That's where the reform part came in at. No, we're going to do it. We got to reform this. We got to bring this under compliance of the executive administration. We got to have full and undisturbed control. I'm with President Trump on that reality, not just at the USAID, all executive branch agencies, all federal agencies, including but not limited to the Federal Reserve. We're not going to allow Powell to sit up there and push his case. You know, the president don't have no control over it. We're going to see about that. We're going to see about that. We got to change that reality if that's real. Because when you look at the Constitution and the power delegated to Congress, they didn't have the power to overthrow the Constitution. Congress didn't. Trump team needs to look at that. Y'all need to look at that, man. When did the Constitution delegate power to any branch of government to overthrow the Constitution? That's not true. Like, what are you talking about? They never was supposed to, Roosevelt, them executive orders was dead on arrival. He can't overthrow the Constitution under the guise of a national emergency, an economic crisis. That's what that Wall Street, the October 29th bankruptcy was about. That was a setup play. The 1913 legislation to establish the Federal Reserve and to give away our sovereignty over our wealth to a third party, non-governmental party. It was a setup play for the plays that went down in 1913, and through 1933, with the Great Depression, all of that crap that we was going through, the wars and everything. It was all a setup play to rob the American people. So Trump, y'all got to look at that. Even if you all been able to benefit from it, in y'all, entrepreneurship capacities. But I'm saying this is about the good of the nation. Where's our gold and silver? Where's our gold at, man? Roosevelt never had the power delegated from the Constitution to overthrow the Constitution under the guise of an economic crisis, national emergency. Congress never was delegated that power. They were never delegated that power. The law is the law. The legal tender in the United States, gold and silver coin for all debts, public and private. Y'all reopened the bank under the Banking Holiday Act. There was no gold. So at that point, the convertibility of the dollar was gone. It cannot be converted in gold and other precious metals. Who removed that regular? That's still in the wealth. So we can only accumulate debt. This is an accumulation of debt. That's how we got to a 36 trillion, which caused hyperinflation since that time. We've been in the reality of hyperinflation since really 1913. So, it's a slow situation, and they need a crisis. Without the crisis, they cannot overthrow the Constitution. They can't suspend the Constitution. They needed a crisis to create an emergency, i.e. national emergency, national security, to overthrow and exercise these so-called extraordinary powers. Okay, let me see what Dog did with his extraordinary power. Let's go into Roosevelt. Roosevelt suspended the gold. They attacked the gold clause in the Constitution. Well, how they do that? And they got an oath to support, defend, and enforce the laws of the Constitution. Well, they had the help of Congress. What did Congress do? They passed unconstitutional, illegal, so-called legislations that was enacted in support of that executive order, making it law, causing a debt crisis perpetual debt crisis in the United States. And we have to suffer from a unagreed tax system called inflation. Remember, people went out with 50 cents, came back with a quarter, took the whole family out. And so each year after year after year, we've been getting squalls of our wealth. It's been a foreclosure against the value of the currency when they remove the gold. Yeah, they can print, but we pay it back with interest. How do we get to $36 trillion deficit? Because they print it and they go and buy their own debt, right? They found the Treasury going to buy all the T-bills and stuff. Like, what's the purpose of that? There's an actual purpose for that. They teaching you this stuff now. Because at any point in time, the bubble gonna burst. The United States is bankrupt. It's been operating in a bankrupt capacity since the Great Depression. Where is your gold? Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution, and I'm going to pull it up here, and I'm going to challenge you. Where's your gold? The greenback is nothing without any backing. That's fiat currency issued from the Federal Reserve. And they have really, it's a banking cartel that has captured the United States of America and seized its sovereignty inside of the debt crisis. You don't have no sovereignty, you owe. All right, we need the United States to go over there and collect that money over there so we can start getting our money. We're going to use your military to go recoup the money you owe us. So go over in Afghanistan, go over here and get that oil, go over there and get that opium, go over here and get that stuff over here, go over here and do this, go over here and do that, go over here and put this, tell Congress, no, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. They control it through the monetary policies. There's a Ron Paul gives you, follow Ron Paul on X, and he'll give you a whole, I think it was a whole hour and a half classroom session on it in the history. It's important. Okay, so let's move right along. Let's see what we got here. So Marco Rubio's right. And I can see you go Edward Martin, he's on him. Here go another gentleman. Before I get to him though, let me see if I can find oh, here you go, right here. Ron Paul.
Audit USAID, then shut it down. As of this writing, when you attempt to USAID website or social media pages, you are informed that this site can't be reached. The media reports that the new Trump administration has not only frozen USAID activities, but may be planning on bringing it back under control of the U.S. State Department. Other reports, including statements by Elon Musk, suggest that it will be closed completely. If true, the closing of USAID may be one of the most significant changes President Trump has made among the many dramatic actions in his first couple of weeks in office. Many Americans may still have the idea that USAID is a government agency delivering relief at disaster site overseas. They may still remember the bags of rice or grain with the USAID logo on them, but that is not USAID. USAID is a key component of the U.S. government's regime change operations worldwide. USAID spends billions of dollars every year propping up NGOs overseas that function as shadow governments, eating away at elected governments that the U.S. interventionists want to overthrow. Behind most U.S. foreign policy disasters overseas, you will see the fingerprints of USAID. From Ukraine to Georgia and far beyond, USAID is meddling in the internal affairs of foreign countries, something that would infuriate Americans if it was happening to us. When President Trump ordered a 90-day pause in USAID activities, we quickly learned just how pernicious the agency really is. The U.S. media reported that Ukrainian press outlets were scrambling to keep their doors open when the U.S. dollar stopped flowing. It is reported that 90% of the media outlets are funded by the U.S. government. This means that there is virtually no independent media in Ukraine, only fake news outlets willing to toe the U.S. administration's propaganda line. Does anyone think these wholly U.S.-funded news outlets would ever publish a story that the U.S. government did not want published? This is plainly immoral, but it is also dangerous. Most U.S. mainstream media stories about Ukraine have their origin in the reporting of the local media. From battlefield news to casualties to the state of the Ukrainian military, the news from Ukraine is being written by U.S. government-backed media outlets and then picked up by U.S. and other Western media. It is a closed propaganda loop that not only propagandizes the U.S. citizens but also feeds false information into U.S. government outlets, such as Congress, that rely on mainstream U.S. media reporting for their news on Ukraine. No wonder so many in Washington continue to support this hopeless war. But USAID is not just the business of disinformation. Elon Musk recently reported a New York Post article on X reporting that USAID bundled $53 million to EcoHealth Alliance to support gain-of-function research on coronavirus at the Wuhan lab. Did USAID help fund COVID? Americans have a right to know. In natural catastrophes overseas, Americans have shown themselves to be extremely generous. Private volunteer assistance organizations can most effectively assist victims of disasters worldwide. USAID needs a full and transparent audit. Americans deserve to know exactly what is being done in their name. Then the agency needs to be shuttered completely and its employees sent home. That would go a long way toward making America great again. Thanks for listening.
All right. Thank you for that, Mr. Paul. Much needed and overdue. Woo. So, bombshell report after bombshell report after bombshell report. President Trump is on the scene. So here we got money laundering from Prince Ravanna Miles Ill at Ravanna_ill. Money laundering, greatest wealth heist in world history. We want to make sure you understand that. I just stumbled on ProPublica site. This is from Mays at Mays More. I just stumbled on a ProPublica site with a tool built in that allows you to see the money wasted by USAID and DOD on failed projects in Afghanistan up to 2015. And he was talking about, let's go into this here. Where's my pen at? Oh, here we go. Let's tap into this. So let's unpack this just a little bit. We're going to unpack it just a little bit. So what he was saying was, go back here. So he said, I just stumbled on ProPublica site with a tool built in that allows you to see the money wasted by USAID and DOD on failed projects in Afghanistan up to 2015, and then see what it could have funded in America. So Obama was in office during that time, and that the DOD has failed, military Pentagon failed multiple audits. They don't know where trillions of dollars are at currently. So and then see what you funded. So USAID spent $335 million on diesel fuel power plant that just sat there because Afghans can't afford to import diesel. 300 to 500 million dollars on a dam that was deemed too unsafe to use. $250 million on a partial road that deteriorated. Millions on healthcare facilities that don't exist. $70 million on excuse me on contractor fees for projects that were canceled before being started, but they got to keep the money anyways. That sounds nice. Now these are some very large numbers. Most Americans probably never going to see $1 million, but you're talking about 335 million, 3 to 500 million here for another dead project, 250 million on a partial road that deteriorated, and then millions on healthcare facilities that don't even exist. So we sent money to facilities that don't exist. That's what we're talking about. So who got the money? Okay, can we say it together? Money laundering operation. That's all that they're revealing to you, no matter how fancy it get, how legitimate it look. Think about it. They sent millions on healthcare facilities that don't exist. They put 335 million on diesel fuel, knowing that the Afghans couldn't afford to import diesel. They spent 3 to 500 million on a dam that they knew was unsafe to use. They spent another 250 on roads that they knew were deteriorating. They gave another $70 million on contractor fees for projects that were canceled before being started, but they got to keep the money anyway. So they got to keep $70 million. Congress didn't say anything. Congress didn't. Where was the inspector generals at? There's no inspector general. There was no watchdogs. A contractor built a 500,000 police training facility that melted when it rained because it was made from sand. The DoD also paid 500 million for 22 cargo planes that were unsafe to fly and were sold to scrap for 30,000 in total. Zero consequences for not delivering, giving more money every year. So they was actually rewarded, right? They was saying, well, what they really saying is they did such a great job. We got to keep them in position. They understand how to move the bag. Watch out, Obama. I'm finna write this up. I'm gonna show you how it's done. We're gonna send 400 over here. We're gonna send 500 over here. We're gonna write this up and send this over there. None of this stuff even exists. But they saying it exists through the media and through Congress. Wait a minute, cuz that's treason. I don't know how else to tell you that's treason. I don't know how else. Matter of fact, let's pull up treason. Where my chat GPT at? Let's explain treason to the American people, just so we can understand. Explain treason according to the. Can y'all finish my statement? Constitution. Good job. Let's go. If we're gonna do it, let's do it. Treason is specifically defined in Article 3, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution. Let's talk about it. I'm over here in Chat GPT. So it said treason is specifically defined in Article 3, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution as follows. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them, or in adhering to their enemies, or in adhering to their enemies. That's why they gave Milley a pardon. That's why they going after Venderman. And that's why they going after these agencies. They're going after everybody. You all have been warring against the United States and adhering to the enemies, giving them aid and comfort. This is why President Trump sent the executive order declaring the cartels and all of that at the border national security. These organizations are terrorists. They're warning against the United States, and these people supposed to be elected official are adhering to the enemies and giving them aid and comfort. That's how they're going to present it. That's why they got to bring it to the American people. in the congressional investigation. That was really the first phase was the first administration. But when you're talking about going into where we at now, you got to look how it's done in phase. You got to look in phases. You got to look at the military correlation to this. They knew they were going to steal the election. They knew that Trump intent was to disrupt the money laundering operations, the human trafficking, the drug trafficking, into the destabilization agenda, the attack on America. Finally, the world, the people of the United States is waking the hell up. Hey man, you've been under attack. You don't hear RFK? They put a poison in your water called fluoride and told you it was the greatest invention known to man. Oh, fluoride, I know personally. Fluoride. Oh, I was jailed for telling the truth as the vice president or vice chairperson of the parent committee and a member of the board, the policy board, and the board of directors for OSA, the so-called Community Action Agency, which is actually another money laundering operation that exists from the same grants that's coming out of these same agencies right now. That's what's always been confusing. How y'all got all this money, but the problems still exist? The problems have to exist so they can come back next year and petition for more money. So you get more money to produce zero results. Hey man, that's money laundering. And it's our money that you laundering. The definition is intentionally narrow to prevent the government from abusing treason charges against political opponents. As had happened historically under British rule, the Constitution also set strict evidentiary requirements for for a conviction. Testimony of two witnesses. There must be at least two witnesses to the same overt act of treason. Confession in open court. The accused must either confess in a public court or be convicted based on witness testimony. Punishment for treason. Congress has the authority to determine the punishment for treason. Historically, penalties have included death, imprisonment for life, and fines. However, the Constitution also states that no attainder of treason shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture except during the life of the person attainted. This means that treason convictions cannot be used to punish the traitor's families by taking their property or denying their heirs inheritance, another safeguard against government overreach. Key cases of treason in U.S. history. Aaron Burr, 1807, charged with treason for allegedly conspiring to create an independent nation in the West, but acquitted due to the lack of evidence. So, what's this? Takeo Rose, 1949. Iva Toguri, accused of broadcasting Japanese propaganda during World War II, was convicted but later pardoned. Axis Sally, an American-born Nazi, a few individuals who actively helped enemy forces in World War II were convicted. Treason charges are extremely rare in the U.S. Most cases of espionage, terrorism, or aiding foreign enemies are charged under federal statutes. For example, the Espionage Act, Sedition Act, or providing material support to terrorism. See, that's what the USAID is being exposed of, rather than treason. So they found other mechanisms to bring you under the law for treason without having to charge you for treason, because it was pretty much virtually impossible to convict you with treason. So they came in and codified the espionage and put context in there, and terrorism, put context in there, aiding foreign enemies, put context in there, codified it under federal statute, and make it enforceable under the law. And so right now, the American people are the witness and the victims. And so we are witnessing how. We always ask the question, why? But I've been taught to ask the question, how? How? Who? Where? And when? Okay? And so that's what we're seeing. We're seeing how they're able to do it. Congress, federal agencies, NGOs, Congress go sit on the boards of the NGOs, they ciphering money down. Even doing it, they even been exposed as far as the trading is concerned. So we got that part. We got treason. So we understand that the number one consequence, as you can see, used in rare cases, is death. And then all of a sudden, Trump sent an executive order out and activating the death penalty. So there's an intent, whether you know it or not, there's an intent to hold some people accountable, former officials and current officials. And as you can see, everything is going under administrative. We're actually living in a political civil war right now. We're actually in the middle of a civil war. That's what we're actually looking at. We're actually in the middle of a civil war. So let's go back to the main event. We got treason, got that out the way. Okay. So, and this was during Obama. They spent all that money out during the Obama era. So ain't no telling what they sent out during the Bush era and others. The healthcare facility in the sea. A 2015 report into USAID funding of healthcare facilities in Afghanistan said that over a third of the 510 projects they had been given coordinates for did not exist in those locations. 13 were not located in Afghanistan, with one located in the Mediterranean Sea. 30 were located in a province different from the one USAID reported, and 189 showed no physical structure within 400 feet of the reported coordinates. Just under half of these locations showed no physical structure within a half a mile of the reported coordinates. The audit said that the USAID and the Afghan Ministry of Public Health could only provide oversight of these facilities if they know where they are. So if they know where they are, USAID declined to comment. Pie in the sky projects, as one USAID worker called them, were routinely launched without any thought to the financial and technological ability of the Afghans to maintain them. It turned out that the Afghans couldn't afford most of them, so even the best programs could end up becoming waste. None of the programs were required to prove they had even limited success. Officials tracked dollars spent, not impact. For instance, no one evaluated whether the Afghan security forces actually learned to read and write after going through a $200 million literacy program. Those who signed off on the failed projects appear to suffer no consequences. As head of SIGAR, John Spoko puts it, reconstruction efforts are, quote, like a child sports game where everyone gets a trophy, end quote. $249 million on an incomplete road. An extensive ring road around Afghanistan was funded by multiple grants and donors, totaling billions during the course of the war. Towards the end of the project, a 233-kilometer section in the north between the towns of Qusar and Lamang led to $249 million being handed out to contractors, but only 15% of the road being built. A CIGAR audit reported between March of 2014 and September of 2017, there was no construction on this section, and what had been built deteriorated. The report concluded. USAID declined to comment. So that's why they fighting. That's why they fight. They said, hell no, we're going to prison. We are going to prison if we let Elon in here. The Tarrock Hill power plant was commissioned in 2007 as a backup generator for the capital in case electricity supply from Uzbekistan was compromised. A vast modern structure, it ran on diesel fuel turbines supplied by brand name engineering giant. There was one catch. Afghanistan had scant diesel supply of its own and had to ship the fuel in by truck, making the plant too expensive to run. The facility itself cost $335 million to build and had an estimated annual fuel cost of $245 million. the most recent SIGAR assessment, or SIGAR, SIGAR assessment, said at best it was used at just 2.2% capacity as the Afghan government could not afford the fuel. USAID declined to comment. I told y'all evidence matters. Bombshell story after bombshell story. Evidence matters. So the American tax dollar funded the lab that developed COVID. It's this
was simply it's pretty outrageous that COVID virus was developed in a lab in Wuhan, and yet was funded by U.S. tax dollars, which was simply routed through this sort of fake nonprofit EcoHealth, because the government, the U.S. government can't give directly to China, so they just gave to EcoHealth, knowing that it would go to China. So our U.S. tax dollars were used effectively to, in the end, kill Americans, which is insane. It's pretty outrageous that COVID virus was developed in a lab in Wuhan, and yet was funded by U.S. tax dollars, which was simply routed through this sort of fake nonprofit EcoHealth, because the government, the U.S. government can't give directly to China, so they just gave to EcoHealth, knowing that it would go to China. So our U.S. tax dollars were used effectively to, in the end, kill Americans, which is insane. It's pretty outrageous that COVID virus was developed in a lab.
I think Elon Musk deserves a round of applause. Because how else do you say it? They actually knew how to get the money to where it needed to go. And that's what I call a pipeline. These people are foreign agents appearing to be Americans. They have infiltrated our electoral system, infrastructure, and processes. They control the administrative state of all of the processes and procedures in the United States. And we never seen it coming. And it took for us to hear Donald Trump's plea and saying, hey, what the hell do you have to lose? You own nothing. And we heard that. We said, whoa, now somebody's telling the truth. You spend your money, you spend it with another country in the United States. And they take that money and send it back home to empower their countries, while we're on a massive decline. One big money laundering operation. And we didn't even see it coming. So I'm at the point where I got to go and recharge. We got some more news. In fact, I'm going to let.
To have something like the USA that sounds on the surface of it, you just saw the big
insight on where that money is going to and who.
Brother Benz, why is it a bad thing to have something like the USA that sounds on the surface of it? You just saw the big crocodile tears are crying on MSNBC. It's for humanitarian projects. It's for development projects. It's to help bring water to the village. And that's a pretty good cover. Why is USA? Why do we rip the mask off and say it's a CIA? And what is the advantage to the American people? You mentioned that it gave the money to a same sort of folks throughout the world. Who are those folks, and why is it advantage to the populist nationalist movement in the American working man and woman to basically rip the mask off, face what it is, and then shut it down, sir?
Well, this is a very, very complicated question, and I really hope that Trump World Foreign Policy folks understand the open heart surgery they're conducting on the way our foreign policy operates around the world. And in terms of why it's a bad thing that USA does what it does, this is one of these questions that, you know, I've known and followed this stuff for many years, but I never made a crusade about taking it on until USA got in the business of censoring the internet. And at that point, and censoring Americans on the American internet, and censoring American social media companies as a foreign-facing humanitarian NGO sponsor, that everyone knows is just the CIA's plausible deniability layer and funding conduit. But when it started to be used against Americans on American soil, that to me was the final straw. That no matter how useful it may be to spend $40 billion a year bribing warlords in Africa, bribing oligarchs in Ukraine, bribing and recruiting terrorists in Afghanistan and Pakistan and Syria, disguising medical supply vans, in Venezuela with boxes of AK-47s and military supplies. The fact is it is no longer a foreign policy instrument. It is a domestic control instrument, and that is the final straw. You can't do that to Americans.
Do you have any evidence in all your research, because you're like the axe in the space, that it's actually been used domestically against Americans, not just for doing warlord stuff like that, but actually against Americans?
Oh my God, yes. The USAID in 2021, they made a formal policy pivot to stopping disinformation on the internet, and they targeted U.S. technology companies. They targeted Facebook. They targeted Twitter 1.0. They targeted YouTube. They targeted all of the online information space. They were working with NewsGuard and Global Disinformation Index, and they were partnered with the State Department's Democracy, Rights, and Labor. They have which works with USAID's group called the Democracy, Human Rights, and Rule of Law. I'm sorry, Democracy, Governance, and Rights Bureau. And what they did is, under the banner of democracy promotion. See, this is the thing. They're supposed to be a democracy promotion organization. It's one of the reasons that they are accountable to the House Foreign Affairs Committee and Senate Foreign Relations Committee. They said that mis and
Mike,
disinformation.
I know you got to bounce, but I just want to hold you to a short break and for a minute or two afterwards. I just want to make sure when we leave this today, people understand that you've made the case of why this place is dangerous and not some humanitarian thing, giving out money to like the nuns to save the orphans in sub-Saharan Africa. Short commercial has been on this idea about a government, an administrative state and deep state that's been out of control. Ben's has been on this for years. So Ben's, when they actually start to allocate money to domestic programs and to all the misinformation, shutting down free speech on the internet, like against War Room U, everybody, that money's allocated. We had this audience sat through the appropriations, the individual bills appropriations, and Eli Crane and Matt Gaetz making this case, I think back in the summer of 2024, 23 and 24 for two different authorizations bills. That time, less than 50% of the Republicans backed them. These things didn't pass in these subcommittees. Was anybody overseeing this? Did people on Capitol Hill know that they had started to use this to target American citizens, sir?
Well, let me clarify that, because there's a distinction here, which is that USAID does work that has dramatic impact on our domestic politics and domestic American to American affairs, but they funnel it through international organizations that operate on U.S. soil, rather than for the most part directly with U.S. organizations, although they do. For example, the USAID partnered with the American Bar Association for, and these type of things. But for example, the USAID gave $27 million to the fiscal sponsor of the Soros prosecutor control group. That, everyone here, you talk about Soros prosecutors, and Soros funds these prosecutors, and then Soros funded NGOs, in particular this main one called Fair and Just Prosecutions. This group that tells Soros prosecutors what to do. Well, that group got more from USAID than it did from George Soros. They got fiscal sponsor did $27 million to the Tide Center, which also played a major role in fomenting Black Lives Matter, as one of the main parent groups of the Black Lives Matter groups. You have to understand, USAID is at the dead center. It occupies the center space between the State Department, the Pentagon, and the CIA. It's a switch player that serves as a plausibly deniable assistance agency to the rogue activities of those three federal agencies, and it represents essentially the sum consensus of the foreign policy establishment, the legacy foreign policy establishment that hated Trump with a passion, wanted to take him down because of his foreign policy views and because of his economic nationalism here at home, And what USAID declared doctrinally is that populism is an attack on democracy. They say this openly in USAID meetings. They say this openly in USAID documents. I published this a year and a half ago. The USAID disinformation primer published the first month of Biden's term in office, saying that the purpose of their disinformation programs was to eliminate populist subject matter expertise on the internet, because populist news sites undermine USAID programming. Because don't you know, USAID spends billions of dollars to control the media every year. All the major media outlets in Ukraine are funded by USAID, like the Kiev Independent. All of the major news outlets in Western Hemisphere or in many parts of Africa and Central Asia, it does what the CIA used to do. Everyone remembers Operation Mockingbird. Well, guess what? That's just called USAID Media Sustainability and Media Assistance. Okay, that's all that is. And when populist waves swept the world in the US in 2016 with Trump, and with what happened all over Europe with Marine Le Pen and Matteo Salvini and Nigel Farage, USAID declared censorship holy war against every single populist group, including Bolsonaro. Steve, I'm telling you right now, if USAID did not exist, Bolsonaro would still be the president of Brazil, and Brazil would still have a free and open internet. It was USAID that spent tens of millions of dollars of American taxpayer money funding the push to get anti-misinformation bills passed in the parliament there, funding the legal advocates who pushed the censorship court there, the TSE, to crack down on Bolsonaro tweets and WhatsApp and Telegram messages. They built a censorship octopus in Brazil, and it was built confidence in democratic institutions, because don't you know, USAID spends billions of dollars to control the media every year. This of their disinformation programs was to eliminate populist subject matter expertise on the internet, because populist news sites undermine USAID programming. They say this openly in USAID meetings. They say this openly rogue activities of those three federal agencies, and it represents essentially the sum consensus of the foreign policy establishment, the legacy foreign policy establishment that hated Trump with a passion, wanted to take him down because of his foreign policy views and because of his economic nationalism here at home. And what USAID declared doctrinally is that populism is an attack on democracy. They say this openly in USAID meetings. They say this openly in USAID documents. I published this a year and a half ago. The USAID disinformation primer published the first month of Biden's term in office, saying that the purpose of their disinformation programs was to eliminate populist subject matter expertise on the internet, because populist news sites undermine USAID programming by undermining public faith and confidence in democratic institutions. Because don't you know, USAID spends billions of dollars to control the media every year. All the major media outlets in Ukraine are funded by USAID, like the Kiev Independent. All of the major news outlets in Western Hemisphere or in many parts of Africa and Central Asia, it does what the CIA used to do. Everyone remembers Operation Mockingbird. Well, guess what? That's just called USAID Media Sustainability and Media Assistance. Okay, that's all that is. And when populist waves swept the world in the US in 2016 with Trump, and with what happened all over Europe with Marine Le Pen and Matteo Salvini and Nigel Farage, USAID declared censorship holy war against every single populist group, including Bolsonaro. Steve, I'm telling you right now, if USAID did not exist, Bolsonaro would still be the president of Brazil, and Brazil would still have a free and open internet. It was USAID that spent tens of millions of dollars of American taxpayer money funding the push to get anti-misinformation bills passed in the parliament there, funding the legal advocates who pushed the censorship court there, the TSE, to crack down on Bolsonaro tweets and WhatsApp and Telegram messages. They built a censorship octopus in Brazil, and it was built entirely on USAID, because USAID declared Bolsonaro a populist, Trump of the tropics, and then set up this operation to control the information ecosystem there. One of the USA grantees even said on a public call that the purpose was to eliminate the international exchange of ideas between the Trump movement and the Bolsonaro movement. That's what USA does. They kill domestic populism because it gets in the way of their foreign policy goals.
Okay. Let's have a brief moment to check out chat response on populist versus protecting U.S. democracy, which is protecting the established money laundering operation. Like, that's the focus, because it's killing us. It's causing our babies to be shot dead in the street. It's causing us to be lifetime participants of welfare. It's causing a demoralizing a state of existence, it's causing a state of depression, making the body and the mind sicker, which is fostering going right into the pharmaceutical capture, uh, which is killing us, destroying the nation. We're a nation in decline, and we have been for a long time now. Anytime that you got this level of injustice against, you know, yeah, you see our people marching on the streets, Americans marching, talking about discriminatory. They don't know what to call it. They like it's racism, it's this. No, it's a constitutional crisis. That's the issue.
Populism and U.S. democracy intersect, but also diverge in key ways, particularly in their approach to governance, institutions, and political engagement. Populism. Populism is a political movement or ideology that claims to represent the people against a perceived corrupt elite. It can emerge on both the left and right of the political
I'm using my
spectrum,
daughter's
and
cup for
typically
my
features the
coffee this
following
morning.
characteristics.
I wanted to hurry up and get back here. It was the only thing that's
Populists
available.
often frame political and economic elites, people, populism and U.S. democracy intersect, but also diverge in key ways, particularly in their approach to governance, institutions, and political engagement. Populism. Populism is a political movement or ideology that claims to represent the people against a perceived corrupt elite. It can emerge on both the left and right of the political spectrum, and typically features the following characteristics. Anti-establishment sentiment. Populists often frame political and economic elites, bureaucracies, and institutions as corrupt or disconnected from ordinary citizens. Direct appeal to the people. Populist leaders bypass traditional political structures, using rhetoric that resonates emotionally with the public, often via mass rallies or social media. Skepticism of institutional constraints. Populism tends to challenge checks and balances, including judicial oversight, media scrutiny, and bureaucratic agencies, viewing them as obstacles to the will of the people. U.S. democracy and its agencies. The United States is a constitutional republic with a democratic system that incorporates representative government, institutional checks and balances, and rule of law. Key elements include separation of powers. The U.S. government is divided into three branches: legislative, executive, and judicial. To prevent concentration of power, agencies like the FBI, SEC, and Federal Reserve are designed to function independently of political influence to uphold law enforcement, financial stability, and regulatory oversight. Elections and representation. Unlike direct democracy, where decisions are made by mass voting on issues, the U.S. relies on elected officials to represent the people's interests in Congress and state governments. Tensions between populism and U.S. democracy. 1. Rule of law versus popular will. Populists may push policies that clash with constitutional protections, while democratic institutions ensure laws are applied fairly to all citizens. 2. Executive power versus institutional checks. Populist leaders often seek to expand executive authority, while democracy depends on checks from Congress, courts, and agencies. 3. Media and information. Populism often criticizes mainstream media as biased or elite-controlled, whereas democratic systems rely on a free press to inform the public and hold power accountable. Conclusion. Populism can energize political participation and highlight real frustrations with governance, but it also challenges democratic institutions meant to ensure long-term stability and fairness. U.S. democracy, with its agencies and systems, is designed to balance popular influence with institutional safeguards to prevent power abuses. The ongoing struggle between these forces shapes the nation's political landscape.
Okay. So basically, populism is going to destroy the U.S. democracy and its agencies because they have been explicit in the overthrow of the Constitution. So the checks and balances has been eroded with respect to benefiting the American people. Now there's checks and balances in place, but it was to protect the money laundering operation. And so I want to cite the preamble to the U.S. Constitution. So populace. Let me go here. So we get a better understanding of what populist means, okay, and why they keep screaming U.S. democracy, which is actually a U.S. in a corporate capacity screaming democracy, which actually means that the rule by a few people gonna rule the many. So it's very interesting. Oh, why did it do that? So I want to. I think this is an important part of the constitutional education. Um, Probably won't get through all of this, but we're gonna give them a chance to. So, the preamble to the U.S. Constitution, while it's charging, it says, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves, our posterity, do ordain."
Preamble to the U.S. Constitution. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Explanation. The preamble serves as the introduction to the U.S. Constitution, outlining the fundamental purposes and guiding principles of the government. Let's break it down. 1. We, the people of the United States. This establishes that the government.
Brother Benz, why is it a
Reinforcing the principle of popular sovereignty. 2. In order to form a more perfect union, acknowledges that the previous government under the Articles of Confederation was flawed and aims for a stronger, more unified nation. 3. Establish justice. Emphasizes the need for a fair legal system that applies laws equally to all citizens. 4. Ensure domestic tranquility. Recognizes the importance of maintaining peace and stability within the country, preventing civil unrest. Provide for the common defense. Highlights the government's responsibility to protect the nation from external threats through a strong defense system. 6. Promote the general welfare. Refers to the role of government in ensuring economic stability, public health, and the well-being of its citizens. 7. Secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Expresses the commitment to preserving individual freedoms and rights for both current and future generations. 8. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Affirms that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land officially enacted by the people. Significance. The preamble sets the tone for the Constitution, expressing the core values of democracy, justice, and liberty. While it is not legally binding in itself, it serves as an interpretive guide for understanding the purpose of the Constitution and the responsibilities of the government.
Okay. So we got a little bit of a better understanding of populist U.S. democracy, um, the people, we the people of the United States in order. So the key term here is we the people. Okay, so we the people came out, we voted through our democratically established systems where everybody get a chance to voice their opinion via their vote. And it went out there and voted. And we understand fully that the electoral college has the last vote, and however, so President Trump won the populist vote, and he won the electoral vote, and so and that's the total sum of when they say we got the mandate. President Trump received the mandate. Not only that, he put pressure on the Republican Party to conform and comply, because as he was developing this mean machine, election machine, he has the ability to endorse candidates against the congressperson that has taken an action or a disposition that's not in alignment with our foreign policy that's being issued and directed from the president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. So it's important that we know our history and we know our authority. We the people of the United States. Okay. My biological father likes to say, son, they were talking about the senators and representatives, but we vote for the senators and representatives. So they're there by way in a representative capacity on behalf of we the people. We the people, the populace, the people of the United States. And the preamble serves as Chat just told us, the preamble serves as the introduction to the U.S. Constitution, outlining the fundamental purposes and guiding principles of the government. So if the people are not the beneficiaries, then who is? The moment that you take an action as an elected official or a part and parcel of some governmental agency, you're subject to the will of the people. You are a subject to the Constitution. That's what we call the will of Allah. You're subject to that. So that means you're a Muslim too. You must submit to the will of all law. And what's Allah here in the United States? Should I say, how does I say all law? Say Allah, say all law. Well, how was the law created here in the United States? Via contract, constitutional contract with terms and conditions. You take an oath, you take an undertaking to serve the American people, and the contract is the Constitution. So we had to create securities, right? Debt obligation or debt securities. So we make you take an oath and make you sign your name on that oath. So now you bonded. And this is under Article 6 of the Federal Constitution. Let me see. Hold on, let me do it this way so it can go faster. Chat, cite Article 6 U.S. Constitution.
Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution. Text of Article 6. All debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. The senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. But no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. Explanation and significance. 1. Debt Assumption Clause. The first clause ensures that all debts and obligations incurred under the Articles of Confederation remain valid under the new government. This helped maintain financial stability and trust in the federal government. 2. Supremacy Clause. The second clause declares the U.S. Constitution, federal laws, and treaties as the supreme law of the land, meaning they override state laws when conflicts arise. This establishes the hierarchy of law and ensures national unity in legal matters. 3. Oath of office and no religious test clause. The final clause requires all federal and state officials to take an oath to uphold the Constitution, reinforcing allegiance to the nation's foundational law. It also prohibits any religious test for holding public office, ensuring religious freedom, and preventing government favoritism based on faith. Impact Article 6 is critical in defining federal authority, maintaining national legal consistency, and protecting religious liberty. The Supremacy Clause in particular has been key in landmark Supreme Court cases that reinforce federal power over state laws.
My love for my parents say this is a Christian country. We need to get rid of the Muslim. It's not. It's a nation of laws. In God we trust. And each person is endowed by their creator certain rights that we have deemed unalienable. This is fundamental. Just wanted to add that part. It's a reason. It's fundamental. I just wanted to add that part. It's a reason why it's like that. And they tell you that to stop all forms of abuses. So Article 6 is the bond. It's the binder, binding all elected officials at the federal level, at the local level, state level, county level. State constitution, like for the state of Michigan, Article 11 or Article 9 or 11, requires the same bond. So we got you under a contract. You're bonded. We the people own you. That's what it means. We own the government. You work in, for, or service the government. We own you. We own the paycheck. We own the car you drive. All that is owned by the people. That you have now become public property. That's the reality. So when do we get a Congress that has delegated power to USAID, that has told Congress in turn and told the president in turn, well, you don't got no power over us. We're a sovereign entity. No, you're not. You're public property. We own you. You have no sovereignty. You're not a sovereign. You're not autonomous. You're not independent. You're subservient. You're a servant at the will and the pleasure of the American people. Don't believe me? Let's go read it again. In the preamble of the Constitution, the preamble serves as an introduction to the U.S. Constitution, outlining the fundamental purposes and guiding principles. We, the people of the United States, this establishes that the government derives its power from the people, reinforcing the principle of popular sovereignty. So this is popular sovereignty. This is populism versus the corrupted deep state and that algorithm they created, which was a setup in incremental phases. 1871, February 21st, the incorporation into D.C., selling it back to the Brits, selling it back to the Queen in London, and then was Trump bankrupt. There's an article about that Trump reposted on his social media. It just flew over everybody's head. These people had an international ring set up operating through our federal government, man, supported and financed by Congress. And we sitting up here thinking that it's racism, or it's black versus white people. It's the Chinese. It's no. Stop. It's our people. It's now I want to call them our people. It's agents. It's double agents, like posing as Americans and getting elected in these power roles as elected officials. But really, they got another. They serve two masters. They have a mental reservation. They're actually working in the interest of a foreign nation. This is why you keep seeing the money go to foreign nations. This is the reason why. You keep seeing the money go to foreign nations. We keep telling you it's a money laundering operation. Then we keep telling you these people they don't have an allegiance. They have denounced their allegiance to the United States, and the republic and have pledged their allegiance to a foreign nation because they were sent in by the foreign nation. They was planted by a foreign adversarial hostile nation, including but not limited to our supposed to be allies. Why would Trump say we're going to put taxes on the EU? We're not at war with Canada. Why would Trump say we're going to put tariffs on them? Y'all letting fentanyl through the borders. Y'all allowing people to come through y'all country and cross over into knowingly. Trudeau, you don't have an intelligence agency. Canada don't have an intelligence agency. They don't have a border patrol. They don't have a military. What's going on? You don't have the intelligence to know that you got nationals trafficking from one end through your country to our country with the intent to cause with the intent to implement a destabilization program. Never before has it been identified as this. This is a military attack. Ain't nobody talking like they're telling you that your local politician, it's racism. It's the white man. The most what the Biden say, the number one threat to national security is what do they call that? White power, white national, some crap. Here's a fun fact in more science. We're taught that white means purity, purity means God, God means ruler of the land. Before it was America, when you go into 1787, you go to 1791, letter from George. I'll go pull it up, man. I ain't gonna do y'all like that. Let's actually get some of this stuff on the screen so you don't think I'm just, pulling stuff out of my hat, making stuff up. Letter from Washington, 1791. Okay. To Sultan Morocco, the empire. Okay, and pull this up. Take my time, walk into the classroom. I ain't gonna rush y'all through this. We're gonna provide you some literature so you can have a chance. Again, we're not gonna be in the business of treating our Americans who are intelligent like some babies. No, you need the same opportunity as everybody else. Okay. I don't know why I just didn't go to chat. Chat is just that AI technology is incredible. It's great. Okay, so let's see here. Let's share this screen. Let's get this on the screen for the American people and the world to see these hidden truths in plain sight. So here we go. From George Washington to Sidi Muhammad, December 1st, 1789. They're talking to the Emperor of Morocco. And I'm going to scroll down here. So, it says right here. I'm going to go down to what? Let me see what it say. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fourth paragraph. It said the encouragement which your majesty has been pleased generously to give to our commerce with your dominions. What does that mean? The encouragement which your majesty has been pleased generously to give. So remember, once you give something, you can take it away. Why do we give it? Why do we give land? Why do we give? We say dominion, sovereignty, title holder, ownership. We talk about dominion. Dominion has many different definitions to it. What was meant here? The encouragement which your majesty has been pleased generously to give to our commerce with your dominions, the punctuality with which you have caused the treaty with us to be observed, and the just and generous measures taken in the case of Captain Proctor made a deep impression on the United States and confirmed their respect for and attachment to your imperial majesty. Let's go to the top. Since the date of the letter, which the late Congress by their president addressed to your imperial majesty, the United States of America have thought proper to change their government and institute a new one agreeable to the Constitution, of which I have the honor of herewith enclosing a copy, the time necessarily employed in the arduous task and the derangement occasioned occasioned by so great thought peaceable a revolution will apologize and account for your majesty not having received those regular advices and marks of attention from the United States with the friendship and magnanimity of your conduct towards them afforded reason to expect. The United States have unanimously appointed me to the supreme executive authority in the nation. Your Majesty's letter of the 17th August of 1788, which by reason of the dissolution of the late government remain unanswered, have been delivered to me. I have also received the letters which your Imperial Majesty has been so kind as to write in favor of the United States to the Bashars of Tunis and Tripoli. I present to you the sincere acknowledgement and thanks to the United States for the important mark of your friendship for them. We greatly regret the hostile disposition of those regencies towards this nation who have never injured them. It's not to be removed on terms in our power to comply with. Within our territories, there are no mines either of gold or silver. And this young nation, just recovering from the waste and desolation of a long war, we have not as yet had time to acquire riches by agriculture and commerce. But our soil is bountiful, our people industrious, and we have reason to flatter ourselves that we shall gradually become useful to our friends. Now we go into this very powerful, all of it's powerful, but pay attention. The encouragements which your majesty has been pleased generously to give to our commerce with your dominions, the punctuality with which you have caused the treaty with us to be observed, and the just and generous measure taken in the case of Captain Proctor made a deep impression on the United States and confirmed their respect for and attachment to your Imperial Majesty. It gives me pleasure to have this opportunity of assuring your Majesty that while I remain at the head of this nation, I shall not cease to promote every measure that may conduce to the friendship and harmony which so happily subsists between your empire and them, and shall esteem myself happy in every occasion of convincing your majesty of the high sense which in common with the whole nation I entertain the magnanimity, wisdom, and benevolence of your majesty. In the course of the approaching winter, the national legislation, which is called by the former name of Congress, will assemble, and I shall take care that nothing be omitted that may be necessary to cause the correspondence between our countries to be maintained and conducted in a manner agreeable to your majesty and satisfactory to all parties concerned in it. May the Almighty bless your Imperial Majesty, our great and magnanimous friend, with his constant guidance and protection. Written at the city of New York, the first day of December 1789, George Washington. Okay. We're coming up on break time here in just a minute. And so I did that to give the viewership a sense, some background content. Without history, I mean, this thing is lost forever. You bound to repeat the same mistakes, right? We bound to repeat the same mistakes. And so I wanted to just give some background history. And I don't even know if you guys had a chance to see that work from George Washington. Just to let you know, this comes from the foundersarchives.gov//documents/Washington, etc. So they're going to link in the hookup just so you can have it. But make no mistake about it. This is all, this is in the birth certificates, the birth records of the United States. And so you've been sold out. You don't have the history. We actually was led to believe that people are black and people are white when these people have nationality. George Washington had a nationality, right? The original 13 colonies, they had nationalities. And they got such a thing called an expatriation system that was set up so you can denounce your loyalty to this nation. And that's what the Declaration of Independence was about. They tell you they disbanded that they denounced their citizenship. They denounced that pledge to serve at the will and pleasure of great King George III. You got to read this stuff. Because them same people that was suppressing the free will of man and woman is the same spirits that's on the scene now. It's the same spirit. They just jumped into a different host, to keep up with the times. So escalation of those. So what's my point? I said U.S. government use taxpayer money to fund bioweapon research. Using your tax dollars, funded bioweapon research, including COVID-19 that killed millions of people. And you got to remember this. This was not an accident or a coincidence. They got up there and said, we got to depopulate the planet. We heard them loud and clear. And everybody kind of brushed it off like, then here come pandemic. Here come the so-called COVID-19. And President Trump was putting it on them prior to that. He started talking about that level of corruption, would eventually led to the biolabs and this, that, and the other, and the international human trafficking ring and the international financial crimes, from the money laundering, bribery, the sex crimes, the pedophilia crimes, the theft of the people's intellectual property, birthrights, etc. I mean, this thing was an open vortex. It was open season against the people of America and the people of the world. Let's not forget, you got babies getting blew up to smithereens with U.S. weaponry. That's amazing to have a consciousness of. And no matter how tough you are, you know, the business is, the universal principle in the business is, no matter where you at, we don't go after children and women. The men got to take care of that. The men got to fight out. What we doing blowing up women and children? Indirectly. Did we send missiles over there? And if we did, we put that under review. Why are we sending missiles that's hitting kids and women and grandparents? Well, how come somebody else can use precision, what they call precision weaponry, and hit targeted military sites, no civilian casualties? They doing that crap on purpose, man. So when people start talking about genocide, ethnic cleansing, you know why they saying that. You know why they saying that, dog. You can't hit your target. You can't hit the military target. Oh, they use them as human shields. Man, we got to find a better approach. We just can't support missiles and weapons with our name on it striking residential areas where it's children playing and it's parents and it's women and it's daughters and it's, what are we doing? Hey man, freeze the wars. No more funding for nobody. This thing is disgustingly bad. And these people, let's get one thing straight. They believe in genocide, dog. Look at the history. From Rome to Babylon to everywhere these people are at, they believe, this spirit believes in human sacrifice. It's actually what we're looking at. One big ritual, human sacrifice. People practicing dead, demonized, satanic cults and practices and policies, and infuse that into U.S. political systems, to our educational system. Oh, two men can't have no baby. What are we talking about? All of a sudden, God is a criminal because you a man. You don't want to be, you're biological. No, I'm a woman. I'm a chick. What, Eric? What do we, whoa, time out. I played sports time out, Ref. I played sports my whole life. Time out, man. Take a 30-second time. Matter of fact, give me a full timeout. Where did that come from? Who pushing that agenda? Who said that? What makes they think that we're comfortable with that? They're going to force that on us? So that's called forced assimilation. That's an international violation. And it's a constitutional violation because I have a right to consent and a right not to consent. I have a right to vote or not vote. I have a right to exercise or forfeit. And it's funny because you can't even get rid of your God-given rights. You can't even forfeit your God-given right. You can't even waive it. You can't sell it. You can't waive it. You can't forfeit it. It can't be taken from you. If you're not God, you can't take it. It's a God-given right. That's why the people were sovereign, because we gave the right, the power to exist to the United States federal government and to the states government. We own all of it. And so for somebody to sit here and act like we don't, that's a crime against humanity. That's unconstitutional. You must don't know the law. And ignorance of the law excuses nobody. Ignorant, you can still be prosecuted even if you didn't know. And so the reality of it is the United States has been, the people of the United States has been prosecuted and convicted. Unknowingly to us, though. We didn't even know this. Yeah. The United States has been charged with crimes against humanity. And its people must bear the cost, must bear the burden, must pay the price for these humanitarian violations. Don't believe me? Look it up. How else did your water get poisoned? How else did we start sending money all over the world and said this was a policy? This was our foreign policy to make every nation rich and tax the citizens and kill them. Kill them. Slowly, painfully, tragically. What do you think is happening when people go to funerals, when people are sick from cancer, people sick from liver disease, people had to get their spleen removed, they had to get their this out, that out, they in a chronic disease state. They want you to die slow and suffer. They want suffrage. They don't want just to wipe you out, like quickly. They want you to suffer through the process. What is that called? Torture. I watched a movie where it said, I think it was like one of the Fast and Furious movies. I think it said when a man owes you something, you don't let him pay you with death. You want to torture him. You want to hit his family off. You want to do everything possible to send a clear message. Okay? And it hurts watching our people die immaturely in vain and then blaming it on everything. God, Jesus, Buddha, devil, this, that. No. You are under attack. Silent wars. And it's being done by your own people who's supposed to represent, your own government is supposed to represent you. The government is in a corporate fictitious capacity under the 14th and 15th Amendment, including but not limited to Congress and the judiciary branch. They're not talking about the 5th Amendment. They're talking about the 14th Amendment that was forced to be created by gunpoint. And it created this fake corporate fictitious venue, which is most of really America's being governed. The United States is being governed under that. That's how you got a shadow goddamn on government in the first place. So let's see what this say before we go take a break. I'm going to take a break. I'm at a 3-hour period here. Elon Musk says he can reduce. Okay, I ain't know about that. Okay, what is this though? I like this. How Russia dropped the hammer on USAID. Russia knew about the USAID criminal's nature long before Elon Musk pointed out back in 2012 Russia banned it from operating in the country. After 2011, 2012 Russian election, post-election protests erupted in Moscow, which some saw a color revolution attempt. USAID was accused by Russian authorities of using its grant networks to influence Russian politics and civil society with good reasons. From 2000 on, USAID concentrated this activity on the funding of civil society groups like the Golos, Election Watchdogs, and the Memorial in Moscow, Helsinki Group, Rights Group, all three now foreign agents under Russian law. These organizations sharply criticize the Russian government, helping to radicalize a portion of the population towards pro-Western opposition views, and to gather support for opposition forces ready to use means other than the elections to gain power. USAID entered Russia in 1992, spending nearly $3 billion over 20 years on democracy and human rights promotion. But the real nature of its activities was very different. In reality, USAID promoted was the dismantling of Russia's social and economic systems during the transition to a market economy and the crushing of opposition to pro-Western politicians and reforms during the 1993 constitutional crisis and the 1996 elections. To further this agenda, USAID built a vast network of independent media. By 2000, USAID Russian National Press Institute alone trained 57,000 journalists and advised 84 newspapers, with additional support provided to an array of print, TV, and internet outlets. On the economic front, USAID provided technical advisory services and material support for the infamous voucher privatization scheme, other nights, which facilitated massive wealth transfers from the state to private and foreign hands. And USAID lofty strategic objectives in the 90s included everything from fiscal and legal reform of the promotion of U.S. investments and even influence over environmental and health policies. But USAID biggest impact, billions spent pushing neighboring countries towards NATO and the EU, rewriting history to portray Russia as their enemy. Nowhere has this effort paid off more than in the contemporary Ukraine. Boom, there you have it. So, really, what do I get from that? Oh, they provided that information to President Trump. They've been coordinating and correlating their efforts to bring the deep state collectively to an end. And that's what that move about going into Ukraine was really about, to end the bloodshed of ethnic Russians and also exposing the deep state activities while using the U.S. government and U.S. taxpayer dollars to finance it. Thank y'all for joining us this early morning. I think we started probably about 12 or 1 o'clock, something like that. However, let's welcome the 4th of February, the 4th day of this electrifying moon frequency that we all absorb in. And let's make the most of it. Let's make the most out of it. Excuse me. So, you know, I'm getting a little tired here. It's time to take a break. Go do my exercises, and I'll be back in just a couple of hours from now. I'll say roughly about 7:30, 8 o'clock. We'll be back with more news right here at Brother L Global. Make sure you stay tuned. I don't know if you can, is it follow or hit the notification bell on TikTok, but make sure you are locked in to when we go live, because we're going to continue to bring you the fascinating intelligence that allows the empowerment of the American people and protects our sovereignty and wealth, allows us to build greater security for our families and be locked in every step of the way under this administration, and all the fantastic things that are being done on behalf of the American people to ensure the American people continue to win. So let's continue to win. Let's just do just that. Support causes and efforts and legislation and executive action that in turn ensures that we the people continue to win. And I like winning, and I know you do too. So with that being said, stay woke. Praise God. We'll get with you later on. Peace.